Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Uncivil Law, where we learn through the misfortunes of others. I am your host, Uncivil Law, a licensed attorney in Texas, Virginia, and before the United States Supreme Court. And I hope today is the day I earn that subscription. For today's coverage, we are going to be watching day one of the Taylor Schabusiness trial, with potential ability to watch more of it if things get really interesting, which seems like a distinct possibility. So we are sort of testing this out to see if this is something we want to cover, which is one of the reasons I haven't announced that we're covering it, because I didn't want to commit to the trial if I wanted to do something else. Because, trial coverage can be interesting, it can be not. But I thought, hey, day one is a good way to see what's going on in this case and see if it's as interesting as it appears. So Taylor Schabusiness is 25 years old. She is on trial for allegedly murdering Shad Thyrion inside his mother's home, apparently cutting off his head, murdering him, cutting off his head, dismembering him, having relations of a prurient nature with pieces of his dead corpse, leaving his head in a bucket, leaving pieces of his limbs in a vehicle. Taylor Schabusiness was a very interesting person, to be sure, in how she expresses displeasure. She is a woman scorned, I guess, and expresses that scorn with the murder, the beheading, removing limbs, sexual assault of the corpse, leaving a head in a bucket, and all kinds of things. So she's on trial for murder and on trial for other related offenses to that as well. The sexual assault, which apparently, especially in this state, is explicitly defined to include a corpse. So the statute apparently explicitly says that. So that solves that problem. So yeah, all kinds of good stuff. So we'll be watching that and trying to understand what is going on in all of that. She also attacked her own lawyer at one point in court, which probably is, a play to look like she's insane, or she's just, inherently a violent person. So take your pick. So she either assaulted her lawyer because, she assaults people when she doesn't get her way, which seems like a strong possibility, or she did it as part of a manipulation tactic to look like she's insane, or as a possibility to try to get the trial delayed by saying, okay, you now have seen me behave in a way, you are now prejudiced against me, which that isn't how that works, by the way. If you're the one who creates the problem, then it doesn't work that way. So sometimes people will try that in court. They're like, okay, I'm going to make threats against the judge, or I'm going to I'm going to threaten the judge's family, for example, or I'm going to attack my lawyer, try to attack the judge, all the rest of it, to try to force, the judge to recuse themselves, or force the trial to be delayed in some way, or force new counsel. And that's not how that works, because there's a difference, as they say, between prejudice and undue prejudice. So when the court is allowed to judge you based on the things that occur in court. See, that is not prejudice. That is just judgment based on what you do in court. So when you act a fool in court, it's like, I'm going to act a fool so that they're prejudiced against me. No, that's not really how that works. That's just judgment at that point, because you are doing things in court of your own volition, or, whatever. And people have a right to use that as part of the assessment against what you're doing and all the rest of it. So no, I mean, we will ask the question whether or not you're sane. But if you're sane, if you're making the decisions of your own volition, then the fact that you acted a fool to try to get the judge to force to recuse themselves, not so much. Oh, the judge is prejudiced against me because I tried to, eat him or something. Well, sucks to be you. Perhaps you shouldn't do that. So yeah, there are limits, and we are all not going to play. We're not going to play your stupid game just because you want to play a stupid game. So I'm looking forward to seeing if this is interesting. So day one, opening arguments, should teach us a lot about what's going on in this case in sort of the theory of the case, right? If the sides are doing their job properly, it will be a good opportunity for us to see what the theory of the case is. It'll be a good opportunity to preview the evidence, a good opportunity to preview the witnesses, right? It should, if it's doing its job right, it should provide everything in sort of an overall package, right? So the ideal opening argument is the scaffolding of the story, right? With pieces to be filled in later, right? And you sort of just teasing things, but you're teasing the arc of the story, right? You're teasing how things are going to develop. It's like the preview, right? So that you'll want to learn more. And then, of course, the closing argument is then you bring in the actual pieces of evidence that you've actually done along the way. So the opening statement is to tease everything out, lay out the scaffolding of the argument. You will hear from this witness, they will testify as to this. You will see this exhibit, they will testify as to this. You will hear from the detective, they will say this. You will see the confession that she made, during which blah, 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 whatever, right? So you just sort of tease it up. You lay it out in an arc. You lay out your theory of the case. You leave them wanting more. Then you bring in your witnesses, hopefully in an order that makes sense as part of the narrative arc that you're trying to tell. And then, of course, at the end, you're like, aha, I have filled out all the pieces. I have revealed everything to you. You bring in the actual testimony that you hear. You actually play the actual exhibit. You actually, quote the testimony. You show the image. You quote the detective. You do whatever to bring in the actual evidence. And you sort of go from there. And of course, the defense is exactly the same, at least in principle, right? You're doing the exact same thing. So it becomes either I adopt your story. So your defense strategy is either I adopt the prosecution story or adopt their arc, but I'm going to fill in the pieces differently to show you how I can use their framework, but fill in the pieces differently to tell a different story, so that their version is not the only way to fill in the gaps. Or more commonly, as a defense, you are telling a competing story with a competing arc, and you're filling in your own story along the way. Obviously, these are not necessarily mutually exclusive. There can be a blend between the two, right? So either you can obviously adopt the prosecution's framework, you can completely abandon the prosecution's framework, or of course, more commonly, somewhere in between, although you're probably leaning more towards it being your own framework because you're developing them independently. You may have a pretty good idea what the prosecution's going to do, and vice versa, but you don't know for sure. So even if you wanted to, you may not be able to completely adopt it without doing it on the fly. And if you do it on the fly in a murder trial, especially like this, that's a bad plan. So you're going to have to come up with it somewhat independently. But those are some of the ideas about how to do it. If you want a really good example of a closing argument, by the way, I would recommend, like, if you want a good example of how to do this in a technical sense, the recent trial that we did with the Parkland detective, the Parkland SRO that we were doing, where the school resource officer was on trial for not going to the scene of the crime, right? If you just look at how it's done, the way the prosecutor did their closing argument was basically perfect in sort of how I would recommend doing it. That's just sort of the technical aspect of how you put together. That isn't to say that their case was perfect. That isn't to say that their evidence was perfect. It is to say that given what they had, they put it together in a perfect way. So the elements from which they were building may have not been very good, but they put it together in a perfect way. So I had said, like, oh, it's 9.9. It's basically essentially flawless. So if you want a really good example of a closing argument technically, looking at the state's argument from the recent trial for the Parkland SRO who was on trial is a good way to go. It was basically essentially flawless technically. Now their evidence sucked. They didn't have it. They didn't have it, to bring it together. But the way that they brought the nothing together was really, really good. If you want a good example of an opening argument, comparatively, although I don't know is quite as perfect, but a good example of an opening argument was actually Thomas Binger's opening argument in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. Again, right? It's not to say that I think Rittenhouse was guilty. I do not think he was guilty. But if you're looking like technically how to do it, right? Thomas Binger was like a 9 out of 10. He had problem, but if you're looking for good examples of an opening, Binger's argument during Kyle Rittenhouse was like a 9 out of 10. If you're looking for good examples of a closing, the prosecutor during the SRO trial was essentially flawless. So those are good examples of how to put it together technically. And then you just, actually have to have a real case. When you build your castle out of sand, the castle may be perfect, but it's built out of sand. That's basically the analogy I'm looking for, right? So you can build a perfect castle, but if you build it out of sand, it's not going to really work, but still it's a perfect castle. So there's a difference between the structure of the thing versus the substance of the thing. So if you're looking for the structure of how to do it, then Thomas Binger and the prosecutor in the SRO case. Of course, if you want ethical, then I wouldn't necessarily recommend either one of them. But if you're looking for the structure of the thing, they're good examples. So hopefully that helps if you're looking for recent examples of that as well. So, yeah, we will see how all that progresses. And for the 143 of you who are currently here, thank you very much for joining us as we see things. So we are going to look at this opening statement in sort of how do they lay out the case? How do they tease it up? How do they entice us? How do they lay out the story? Do they provide a story? Is it coherent? Right? Do they help to us to understand what's going on? Do they tease things up in a way that's going to help us understand the evidence we're going to hear? Do they entice us with anticipation about particular evidence we expect to hear, so that we are looking forward to it and looking forward to our need for that information being satiated? That would be really helpful with all that stuff. So we will see how that goes, and we will go from there. Tony B says it's one hell of a closing. Only shame is they never hit the duty to protect hard enough or clear enough. Yeah, Tony, that's the problem is they couldn't, right? Or at least in my view, the problem is they couldn't, right? They did the best with what they had. The problem is they didn't really have it. Like I made this point repeatedly that like I didn't think it was legally cognizable. I didn't think it was going to be legally sustainable, Tony. So, I thought that, if they convicted, we're off to appeal. And I'm like, this is not going to work. He doesn't have a duty under law. This is absurd, right? They don't have it. Legally, they don't have it. So they couldn't hit duty harder in some sense because it was legally bankrupt. But in sort of the storytelling aspect of it, in sort of the structure of the thing, they built a perfect castle. It had defects for other reasons. So maybe the analogy in this situation is they built what appeared to be a perfect castle, but it was made out of sand and it had no internal supports. So it was a hollow sand castle, but it looked perfect from the outside, right? So maybe that's the right analogy, but you get the point, right? So, but if you're looking for like the structure of the thing, which is an important aspect, right? You want to be able to, because of course, ideally as a lawyer, you want to be able to take the evidence that you have and put it in the best structure possible. Now, ultimately, you can only do as much as you can with what you have. So if all you have is sand, then all you can do is make the perfect sandcastle, which is probably a little bit maybe why you shouldn't be here in the first place, because all you have is sand. But if all you have is sand, you want to be able to make the perfect castle. So I would still nevertheless counsel your attention to it, because as a lawyer, what you want to do is do the best with what you have. And then maybe if it's less than bankrupt, then if it's so bankrupt, we start asking ethics questions. But, the idea, at least in principle, you want to be able to tell the story. Trials in particular are storytelling because there's a jury listening to this thing, and trials are storytelling. Whose story is going to be more persuasive? And, what evidence supports the story? So that's, one of the differences between, a lawyer and an author. An author gets the luxury of writing their characters. An author gets the luxury of writing their scene, writing their characters, writing the dialogue, writing the author gets the ability to just invent anything out of whole cloth. The lawyer doesn't quite get that luxury, but the skill set to be able to tell the story is still an important skill set. You want the jury to understand why it matters. Why does it matter? Why am I here? Why does it matter? What is the reasons that I'm going to want to sell for you? And you want to ideally tell the story from beginning to end, right? Because the jury is inevitably the last chapter of the story. There's no way to avoid that, right? So what you ideally want to do is tell 19 chapters of a 20 chapter story. And then the only way to resolve the story in the end is to side with you. That's the only way to have a satisfactory story. So the ideal for the lawyer is to be able to tell 19 chapters of a 20 chapter story. And the only way that it comes to a satisfying end is for you to win. And then you let the jury write the last chapter. And there's only one way to do it. And that's for you to win. So that's the ideal. And of course, that's a little bit, as it would suggest, idealistic. That's probably not going to happen. But you aim for it. And you do what you can to make that work. So all that good stuff. Tony P points out the courtroom doesn't get the benefit of plot armor. Yeah. This is the real world at this point. So for sure, Tony P, you're 100% correct. Mitova points out that's not a jury problem. It's a matter of law, should not influence the jury. Exactly so. Yeah, exactly so. With respect to that was an issue for the trial court. That was an issue for the Court of Appeals. It shouldn't influence the jury. That's true. Right? The jury is not there to decide questions of law, but rather questions of fact. So, right, it wouldn't influence them. I'm just pointing out that it had problems and that the lawyer had problems. So, right, I'm just trying to be complete in my analysis to point out that, there were fundamental problems, but what they did with what that piece of it was perfect. I was just trying to point out that by me saying perfect wasn't me trying to endorse what they were trying to do or trying to endorse their legal theory. I was just trying to make a very, very specific point, which sometimes gets lost when I'm doing these analysis. Because sometimes, and I saw this be true, for example, when I was doing the streaming of it, and I was like, oh, this is perfect. I saw some, what would you say, discontent from the chat because they thought by me saying it's perfect was me saying, I agree with it in a fundamental way, or I think he's guilty, or a lot of things I wasn't necessarily saying. So I was just trying to be a little bit more thorough to avoid the confusion, which I've had before. So all that good stuff. So we'll see how that all progresses. And I'm just looking for a feed right now for the trial because it's supposed to start pretty soon, but I don't see a feed for it. So I'm just waiting for that to happen. What time does it start? It's supposed to start pretty soon, I think. I think it's supposed to start in like a minute. Core TV, we'll take a look. Let's take a look at Core TV. I was just taking a look at YouTube and anyone who's streaming anything live to see if anyone actually has an underlying feed of it. Here we go. No, that's not it. I'm just looking for anyone who actually has a feed of it right now. I don't see that anyone I don't see an actual underlying feed for it right now. Let me check out Core TV's page while we look for the thing. Okay, here we go. Core TV has it. Good. We'll use Core TV's feed. Excellent. All right. God damn it. Hold on. Yeah, they just started 30 seconds ago, so I'm just trying to get the feed going right now. No, come on. I'm having problems with the feed. I'm having problems with it just stopping and starting again. Been having problems with my streaming recently for some reason. Core TV is streaming it, and I'm not getting a consistent feed. Please hold on. 30 minutes for opening. That's tight. It's not unreasonably tight, but it's tight for an opening. But it can be done. All right. So there was just some sort of preliminary motion, and then we're back to this. So yeah, we're just about to get started. So we'll see. Did you not have audio for that? Oh no. Just add to my list of problems. Well, fortunately, you didn't miss anything, but let me see what I can do to fix the problem. Fortunately, you didn't miss anything. So let me see what I can do to fix the problem. All right. So hopefully next time you'll be able to hear the audio. So we'll go from there. Captions available. There are no captions. As you can see, closed captions are disabled. So no captions available. Can't give you what I don't have. So we'll go from there. Let's see if we can do any better than 360 streaming. That'd be nice. We'll do 480 maybe. Ooh. Not that the underlying thing is any good anyway, but we'll try. But we do have audio equalizer on. As you can see down here, we got this little compress audio thing to hopefully, I've been looking for ways to make streaming better for you guys because I love you. So we do have this wonderful feature now, compress audio, to try to make the audio a little bit tighter. And we do also have a volume boosting tool, and I'll go ahead and boost that to 300%. So hopefully that will make the audio clearer because I love you and I want to make it as good as I can. So we will do everything possible to bring you the best quality experience here on Uncivil Law. So we try. Do we know how long the trial is expected to go? No, I don't know. I would imagine it's going to go for a couple weeks. So the judge said that there's 30 minutes opening. That's very doable. It's tight. It's a tight opening, especially in a complex murder case. It can be done, though. I mean, you can definitely do it. You just have to do more scaffolding, right? So it just has to be more scaffoldized, with pieces to be filled in. So can you do an opening in 30 minutes? Yes, you can. But judge insisting that it be done in 30 minutes. I'm like, okay. And judge is like, you get 30 minutes each for opening. So you did miss that. The judge said you missed. So you did miss that. The judge said opening for each side will be 30 minutes long. So I'm like, okay. That's tight. It's doable. In a complex murder case, you just have to not faff around. So maybe we'll get really good results, because I think to some degree, because a lot of times they don't have constraints, they tend to be worse. Because they're unconstrained, they tend to be worse. So maybe we'll get some really good opening arguments because they will have really had to think about it for it to work in 30 minutes. So we'll see. 5 days it's supposed to be. We'll see. Someone asked about which video Bane, I'm not sure what Bane means, has Germans stealing art during the Holocaust. I believe that was Friday's streaming, where we discussed that case that's ongoing as to who possesses or who owns a piece of art that the Germans originally stole during World War II. So I think that was Friday's stream. Where is this trial? I'm not sure. Can the 30-minute opening be an area for appeal? Probably not. No, because the trial has the right of trial management. So as long as it's reasonable, probably not. No. They'd have to basically, it's an abuse of discretion analysis. It's an abuse of discretion analysis. The judge has the right of controlling the order, the presentation, order of witnesses. The judge gets a lot of discretion. So the judge says 30 minutes each. It's an abuse of discretion analysis. So to win on appeal, you'd have to show basically that 30 minutes is completely unreasonable. Which,
The jury is assembled.
Wisconsin? Could be. Thank you.
Saunders? No. Mr. Freilich?
No.
The jury's ready? Bring them in.
All right, guys. The jury is ready, and we will see what happens. Will they've known about the 30-minute limitation beforehand? Yeah. He isn't springing on them for the first time this morning. That would be unfair. Yeah. If the judge is going to have a limit like that, you got to give them some notice, especially in a complex case, right? If this was a simpler case, then being springed on it would be fair. In a complex case with murder and beheading and all the rest of it, yeah, you're going to have to want to give them some notice on that. John Doe says the opening consists of no evidence. It's basically like the blurb on a dust jacket. That's the idea. Yes, some courts will allow you to some degree bring in evidence in opening.
Standing till everybody gets in. I can
But,
see you talking about it, so.
But
no
yes,
problem.
as a general proposition,
All right, be seated.
that's kind of the idea. You got it.
Okay, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you had a good weekend. First thing we're gonna
Donald's
do
as to
here
what
this
she's
morning
accused of, check
is
out the video
administer the
description. I
juror's
put in the
oath. So I'm gonna
description
ask
in the
all of you
video
to stand up and raise your
to
right hand.
provide some information. Okay, the jury's about to be sworn in.
You and each of you do solemnly swear that you will well and
So in
truly
case
try to
you
issue
care,
between the plaintiff
this
and
is
the
the moment
defendant
that
and a
double
true
jeopardy
verdict
legally
give according
attaches.
to law and the evidence in
So the
court,
moment the
so
jury
help
is
you God.
sworn in, double jeopardy happens.
Have a seat.
All right, double jeopardy just
The
occurred.
next thing I want to do, ladies and gentlemen, is briefly
Exciting.
explain to you about the process. We have obviously 16 jurors. There's only going to be 12 that are going to be in deliberations. For those of you who aren't familiar with that process, we have a number of alternates. The purpose of an alternate is to ensure that if someone takes ill or can't return or for any reason finds that they can no longer participate in the process, we will continue to have 12 because if we drop below 12, the trial has to end and we need to start over. That's why we have 4 extra. At the end of the first phase of this trial, the computer will randomly select 4 of you who are going to be excused and won't participate.
So they don't
in the
announce who
deliberations.
the alternates are going
That's
to be
the
in
purpose
advance,
of the
which is the
alternate,
way
and
to
that's
do
the
it.
purpose of having 16 instead of 12 right off the bat. I gave you a number of instructions on Friday, and I want to give you one more instruction here this morning to help you better understand the process. In this case, Taylor Schabusiness has entered 2 pleas to the charges in this case: not guilty and not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect. The law requires that the issues raised by the 2 pleas be decided in a continuous trial that is separated into 2 phases. Your verdict will be taken at the end of each phase. You are to consider only the issues presented to you during each phase. You are not to consider any issues other than those presented to you for each verdict.
Someone has said law and crime has
In the
captions,
first-
so we'll switch back. We'll give law and crime a shot. So yeah, for double jeopardy purposes, double jeopardy legally attaches the moment the jury is sworn in. In the case of a bench trial, it's when the first witness is called. So now you know. And my browser has frozen completely. All right, we're back. The browser just completely crashed, as you can see. So that was fun and exciting. Hopefully I didn't lose you for very long. In my effort to try to switch feeds, my browser just completely and totally crashed. Exciting. The joys of streaming, my friend, the joys of streaming. Back. All right. Hold on. All right. God damn it. Deep breaths, Kurt. Deep breaths. Okay, so now I'm having problems with Law and Crime's feed. It's not coming through. I'm having problems with it just stalling, so that's good. I'm trying to go back so that we don't miss any of the opening, and it's not letting me go back. I'm just getting the circle of death. So, enjoying that, I must say. It's going really, really well. Come on, come on. Let me go back in time. I can't go backwards. I'm not sure why it won't let me go back. I can't put the stream back. So we'll just have to miss part of the opening because I can't make it work. Now it's stalling again. Now it's stalling again. I can't get a reliable feed. I can't get a reliable feed. Yeah. It's just completely stalling. I can't do it. I can't get long crime. Okay. And now this feed is stalling. I cannot get a feed. I can't get a feed. The judge is not still instructing the jury. I'm watching opening arguments occur.
And unfortunately sees essentially a mother's worst nightmare, that her son's head is in the bucket. Understandably, you'll hear testimony about that and the shock that caused. Tara goes and talks to her boyfriend who lives in the home, Steve. You'll hear from him. He goes and checks too, and ultimately they call 911. And that's how this case comes to be. You'll hear from the officers this morning, likely, who arrived on scene and what they observed, obviously confirming the information that was reported to law enforcement about Shad's circumstances, how they find the bucket and it has parts of Shad as well as knives. You'll hear about, at that point, a relative lack of other indicia of a crime occurred. It's not a significant amount of blood on the walls and on the floor. There's some, you'll hear about that, but it takes law enforcement time to see what actually happened, the full extent of what the defendant did in this case. By that point, they're actually interviewing the defendant, and she's providing them information that, no, Shad's still in the basement. The rest of him is still in the basement. And ultimately, you'll hear about what officers find in that basement. There's, as I mentioned, the living area has some mattresses, blood-soaked. Once you remove the blankets, other clothing items. There's a tote, a teal tote, kind of a larger Tupperware that has knives as well as body parts of Shad. There's bags, a sort of duffel bag type item, a backpack, all of which contain parts of Shad's body, as well as knives that were used in the dismemberment. And you'll hear all about that. The officers who responded on scene and processed the evidence, ultimately locating the parts of Shad. You'll hear about then other things that are found. Signs of methamphetamine use, which the defendant later acknowledges happened with her and Shad right before this crime occurred. Cleaning products. As I mentioned, you may have an idea in your head of this crime and what that looks like and what law enforcement would encounter when they got there, and you'll see what actually encountered. You'll hear about Clorox wipes and how the defendant would go to the shower and sort of clean up and use a squeegee and clean up the scene. You'll hear about the medical examiner and their team who arrive and are dealing with this situation and
He's very nervous.
determined that not all of
Playing
Shad
with
is
his
located in the
hands.
basement.
He doesn't have good
There's
playing
certain
with
parts
his
that are
face.
missing, and ultimately
Playing with his hands,
in
putting
the
his
van
hands in his
that the defendant
pocket.
is driving, gold
He's
minivan.
very nervous in his
There's
presentation.
additional legs of Shad found in that vein. You'll hear from Dr. Vincent Tranquita. He's our medical examiner at the time, and he will testify about cause and manner of death. And you'll hear about the cause being strangulation. Significant force applied to the neck, significant signs of strangulation that you'll hear about, and then ultimately, obviously, a significant amount of dismemberment after the fact. You'll hear Dr. Tranquita talk about that.
His
That's all
pacing
happening in
sucks.
Stony Brook. And 23rd.
He's stepping
throughout
on. He's
that
stepping
day,
on
You'll hear
like
about
his lines.
significant investigation that goes on at that house.
He's
And then
monotone.
you'll hear about then, a few hours after that, after that initial 911 call, how law enforcement kind of gets word that, Shad was with the defendant, Ms. Schabusiness, before this offense, and that they locate her at her apartment on Eastman Avenue, sort of on the other side of Green Bay, east side. Encountered as she's leaving the apartment that she shares with another person. And you'll see that encounter, how the defendant is essentially literally caught red-handed, blood on her hands. There's a significant knife wound that she talks about later was suffered in the course of the crimes. There's blood on her clothing. There's black sweatshirt, black sweatpants. And she talks with law enforcement for a pretty significant amount of time. Detective David Groff, who's seated at counsel table here, interviews the defendant along with another detective, and they start to learn more about what happened in this case and sort of the hours leading up to the crimes. Again, it's a significant and lengthy provided by the defendant that later is corroborated by law enforcement. You'll hear the defendant admit to cleaning up, avoiding guilt, avoiding responsibility for this. You'll hear her talk about that. You'll see the signs of that, as I mentioned earlier. That dismemberment process takes that entire day of the 22nd, essentially. As I mentioned, Tara wakes up to
Suit doesn't
Taylor
really fit
leaving
very
at
well either.
2:33 a.m. on the 23rd. The investigation doesn't stop there, despite the defendant's confessions. Law enforcement continues. They send DNA to the lab, and it confirms the accounts that we're getting here. Blood
Gesturing
on the defendant's
uncontrollably.
hands, left and right hands, or Shad's.
Hasten.
Blood on the knives. Some of the knives that are used is Shad's. The clothing item, as I mentioned, the black sweatshirt, black sweatpants, has red substances, blood on the sweatpants, all consistent with what happened, with the defendant's statements, with what law enforcement's seeing. So this case is really not a whodunit. You'll hear about the crimes that clearly occurred. You'll hear the defendant's statement saying, "Yep, I did it," and you have DNA evidence and other investigative
feels like you didn't
tools that kind of
practice
corroborate
this.
everything else.
You would imagine
So
with
for
a
this,
30-minute
the defendant's charged with
opening
3 crimes that the judge
that
read off
you would
earlier.
have
First degree
given
intentional
this
homicide,
multiple
mutilating
times.
the corpse, dismembering the corpse, and then third degree sexual assault. So we'll get into what that all means later. We'll have closing arguments where we kind of provide summation and provide all that to you.
When
So
I
for
was
now,
like
as you kind of listen to the
practicing
evidence,
speeches or
count one, the
practicing
state needs to prove
oratory,
that the defendant caused the death of Shad and that she did so
I used to
intentionally.
when I used to work in
As
an
I
office,
mentioned,
I used to get up,
You're going to hear a lot about
used to
that.
get up and just walk
It's
the
nothing
floor,
done intentional. This is not an accident.
like
This is
to
not
take a break on something
mistake.
and just work on my dialogue.
Significant act the defendant did.
People thought I was crazy, muttering to myself, but
Dismembering a corpse
It's all
for the
right.
purpose of concealing a crime. You'll hear a lot about that. And third degree sexual assault, how she engaged in oral contact with Shad's body and inserted objects in his body as well after the fact. I know
Touching
in
his
voir dire
face.
some of you talked about, you've heard some about this case, and that's to be expected potentially. It's really important to stress that our system of justice is not based on media accounts, on word of mouth, on what you hear. The evidence is what happens in these 4
why are you
walls, what
bringing
hear and
this?
see.
Why are you mentioning this right now?
And ultimately,
You would think that
evidence in this
anything
case
that
was
happened in the press would be good
Right.
for you as the
the
prosecutor.
defendant is guilty.
So why are you
of
making a
these 3
point
crimes. So
of
again,
saying
this is
that?
just meant to be an overview on the evidence we expect you to hear over the next
Why
few
are
days
you saying
in
that?
the first phase.
Why are you pointing that out?
But ultimately, the case comes down to choices and responsibility. The defendant made a series of choices February 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. Choices to use methamphetamine. Choices to kill her friend, Shad. Choices to then utterly degrade him after the fact.
What is Taylor Schabusiness wearing? What shirt is she
Choices the
wearing?
defendant made. And
What kind
when
of
we come back in
print
closing
does she have
arguments
on her
later
shirt?
this week at some point, we'll
That's what she chose to wear to
argue
court?
you
That print?
The evidence in this case is clear. The choices the defendant made
I'm not sure about that
indicate
choice,
that you're not going
Taylor.
to have a reasonable doubt about what the defendant did, that she's
Do
guilty.
you
of
really
what-
want to look like a leopard that
Thank
might
you,
be
ladies and
stalking
gentlemen.
its prey? It seems like a questionable choice. That was your entire opening?
Yes, I am, Your Honor. Thank you very much.
That opening's garbage.
Your Honor, may it please the
That
court.
opening sucked.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Mr. Lassay, Mr. Saunders. Thank you for your service as jurors. We definitely appreciate you being here, serving on the jury, because a jury is an integral part of the court process. Without you jurors, our court system simply couldn't function. The lawyers couldn't do their job, and the court couldn't do its job. So we appreciate your time, your attention to detail, and your anticipated focus over the next several days that you're going to put into this very serious case. Now, in this case, the state of Wisconsin, through the Brown County District Attorney's Office, has the complete burden of proof. The state must prove to all of you jurors, beyond a reasonable doubt, each and every element of the crimes charged beyond a reasonable doubt. The United States Constitution presumes that every person who is accused of a crime is presumed to be innocent. And in this case, Taylor Schabusiness is presumed to be innocent. She doesn't have to prove anything. The defense does not have to prove anything in this case. Why?
You know the old
Because
saying,
the
when you
complete burden
don't
of proof
have the
rests with
facts,
the district
you
attorney's
pound the
office
law.
with the state of Wisconsin. They
Yeah.
have to prove up all the facts. And in this case, you're going to hear a lot of different facts. You're
So
gonna hear a
I
lot
don't
of
know if the
different
jury is picking up on this, but
accounts
I'm
from
picking up on
witnesses,
this.
citizen
The
witnesses,
facts are a
detectives,
horror show
police
for him.
officers, experts, DNA
He doesn't have
analysts,
any facts.
medical
The
examiners,
facts
all of
suck.
that. You're going to have to take all of that information
So
into consideration.
what do you have left?
When you
What
deliberate.
is the last refuge for the defense? What is the
But
last
entire
refuge for the
burden
defense?
rests with the state in
Burden
this
of
case.
proof, baby. Burden of
client,
proof. When you have
Taylor
nothing
Denise
else, baby,
Schabusiness,
you
also
can
has
always
an
go back.
absolute
The
right
state
to
has to
remain
prove its
silent.
case
Under the
beyond a
law,
reasonable doubt. They
she
have
has
to
a right
convince
not to
you beyond
testify
a
if
reasonable
she
doubt.
so
We have no
chooses.
burden.
And if she elects not to testify, you
Yeah.
cannot use that fact alone against her in this trial. She doesn't have to testify, but she may testify. In this particular case, ladies and gentlemen, Taylor Denise Schabusiness was friends with Shad. They went to high school together. They went to school at Bayport, and they had classes together. And when they were younger, they dated for a short period of time. But basically, they were friends. You're going to hear some testimony on, it was a Wednesday, February 23rd of 2022. You're going to hear, I believe, a 911 tape. You're going to hear testimony from Tara Pakinich and Stephen Hendricks. They live at 829 Stony Brook Lane in Green Bay.
Who cares?
There was a call from Mr. Hendricks that he apparently went downstairs in the basement and saw a bucket, saw a human head in the bucket, and he had checked it out because his significant other, Tara Pakinich, had initially went down there and saw this and had him go check. He didn't have glasses on, but he apparently called 911, and that caused the officers to come to the scene at 829 Stony Brook Lane. And there'll be some testimony about this residence. It's a small, quaint home. It's got a loft upstairs where I believe Tara Pakinich and Stephen Hendricks were sleeping. And it has a floor level with kitchen.
Why do I
living
care?
room, and then it has a basement.
Are you trying to
and,
sell me a piece of real estate right now?
There will be testimony. We believe that Stephen Hendricks last saw Shad at the house on Monday night, which I believe would have been February 21st of 2022. He will indicate that both of them will indicate that they really did not see Taylor Schabusiness leave. They heard a vehicle start, a door slam, caused them to wake up. Officer Wanish, you'll hear from him. He came to the house and went down the basement to make some observations. That the officers did a protective sweep. They walked around the basement and the entire house to see if there were any other people there on February 23rd, 2022. And the only people that were there were Tara Pakinich, the owner, Stephen Hendricks, and daughter Ava Wheelock. Those people were there. No Taylor Schabusiness was there. She wasn't in the basement. She wasn't anywhere in the house. But obviously there was some investigation, and evidence was apparently found. And it's true that
Taylor Schabusiness wasn't there at the time the head was found in the bucket?
Of what was really happening or what happened.
Okay.
And so they're trying to figure things out as they went along. There would be some testimony from other officers with regards to the other scene, which is 2353 Eastman Avenue in Green Bay. That, I submit, was Taylor Schabusiness's apartment. And she lived there with Scott Thoms, Thoms. And law enforcement officers came over there, and my client came out of the apartment complex, and she was arrested. She had a warrant. She was taken into a squad car and taken down to the Green Bay Police Department for questioning by Detective Groff and Detective Kevin Kempf. Also, law enforcement arrested the other person in apartment 1, that was Taylor's apartment, Scott Thoms, and he was ordered to lay on the ground, and he was taken into custody as well.
Okay.
You'll hear from lots of different officers, in this case law enforcement officers. The officers found a gold Chrysler Town and Country minivan, I believe 2006.
I'm not trying to buy a car either, sir.
In the Eastman Avenue parking lot.
I'm not trying to buy a house, and I'm not trying to buy a car.
Now, this vehicle is owned by Scott Thoms, and I believe that will come out that he was the one that owned that vehicle. But inside that vehicle, there was a crock pot box, and there were some human body parts in there.
Okay.
In this particular case, you'll also hear from Dr. Tranchita. He's the medical examiner, did a lot of investigative work, looking at cause and manner of death of the deceased. So you'll hear about all of his findings. You're also going to hear from Kevin Scott. He's the DNA analyst for the state of Wisconsin Crime Lab. And his testimony, I believe, will show that he took various swabs as part of the DNA analysis, and items were swabbed. There were sweatpants, there were blades, there were light switch, there was boxes, hands, people's mouths, and a dildo, because that was found. The swab of the dildo, he will testify, I believe, that the possible contribution of DNA from Shad Thyrion as it relates to the dildo is inconclusive due to the complexity of the mixture. So the state is going to argue that there was a sexual assault by use of the dildo, and the deceased DNA is not on it. So that's something you'll have to take into consideration.
Okay.
You're going to hear from Sergeant Kurt Brester from the Green Bay Police Department. He was dispatched to 829 Stony Brook Lane regarding a suspicious situation on February 23rd, 2022, and that he conferred with Officer Wanish outside, that he had contact with Tara Pakinich and Stephen Hendricks, and that he did a protective sweep of the residence, and they didn't find anybody else other than Ava Wheelock.
What tie is
who
the
was
judge
young lady,
wearing?
16, sleeping
Just
in the
out of
bedroom.
raw curiosity, is this a
You're
tie
gonna hear
that's supposed
from,
to be a
I believe,
painting?
Officer TJ
Is it like a
Buckman.
Van Gogh tie? What's up with the judge's
that,
tie?
He arrived on the scene as a supervisor to this apartment complex, and he actually went to 2353 Eastman Avenue in Green Bay, and he saw that gold van parked outside, and he had several other officers keep the van under surveillance, and at least from his initial investigation, he did not have enough information to determine whether or not Taylor Schabusiness was the suspect or the victim. And so those are some other things that you're going to have to take a look at and think about. You're going to see the videotape in this case where there was a lengthy video down at the Green Bay Police Department between Detective Groff and Detective Kempf and my client, Taylor Denise Schabusiness. And they talked, and Detective Groff asked her lots of questions about what she knew and her whereabouts and what may or may not have happened. So you have to pay close attention to that and think about the things that are said. in a case like this, and really in any case, you have to assess the credibility of each and every witness. You have to take all of that into consideration.
So
in
the
this
defense is
matter.
doomed.
I'd
The
ask that
defense is
you,
totally doomed.
when you're
and it's the
considering
prosecution's
all of the
case to
evidence,
lose.
Don't jump to conclusions. Don't rush to judgment.
Oh, don't
Please
rush
keep
to
an open
judgment.
mind.
Okay.
Listen
So
to all the facts,
Taylor
listen
the
to what
business
every
is going to be
witness has
found
to
guilty,
say
people.
carefully. and weigh what
That's a
they have to
spoiler.
say. And
She will
remember,
be found
there's always
guilty,
two sides to every story.
and she's going to prison forever. So,
You
yeah, that will
jurors are going to have
conclude
to
our
decipher
coverage
the
of the
facts
Taylor
of
Schabusiness trial.
what may
So,
occur,
yeah,
what didn't occur.
going just that well over here.
But at the end of the case, we ask that you find our client not guilty on all the counts. Thank you.
Taylor Schabusiness is hosed. She's toast.
And then, Mr. Saunders, are you-
Get out some avocado, baby, because she's toast.
Yes.
Oh, Lord.
Your Honor, may we have just a very brief sidebar before?
We're having a
the first
sidebar
witness?
already? We just did opening statements. What are you doing a sidebar about? Oh, Lord. Okay. Well, the prosecution's opening was a nervous wreck. The defense's opening is our client is totally and absolutely guilty, but don't forget the prosecution's burden of proof, guys. It's really, really important. They have the burden of proof, and our client may or may not take the stand, and they have the burden of proof. And didn't you remember that they have the burden of proof? And make sure that you remember that they have the burden of proof, and our client is absolutely 100% guilty. So it's going really, really well over here so far in Wisconsin. So all the prosecution has to do is not completely F this up, is basically what the defense thinks. The defense thinks all the prosecution has to do is not F this up, and they're going to win. So we'll see. Yeah. Also, I'm not buying a house, and I'm not buying a 2006 Town and Country minivan. So I appreciate your pitches for both.
The
But
state calls Amy Shannon.
all right, Amy, what you got for us?
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the matter now before the court, so help you God? Please have a seat and state your name for the record.
Amy Shannon.
Before we go on, I wouldn't be a jury trial if we didn't have technical problems. So there's going to be an audio played shortly, and we're having a hard time getting the audio on. So we're going to take a minute and see if we can, if we can't get it done quickly, I'm going to excuse the jury and call somebody out who can do it.
My name's Miss Joe.
If Taylor Schabusiness testifies, it'll be epic. She might. That'd be hilarious if she testifies. Well, for the 338 of you who are here watching this trial, thank you very much. Just a kind reminder to please hit that like button as we try to assess what's going on and see what Amy has to bring. Who is Amy? Why is she here? Who are you, Amy? Why are you here? What do you have to offer us? For those of you asking what the trial is about, just a kind reminder to read the video description, which makes me wonder why I bother writing video descriptions. Why do I even bother writing video descriptions?
It's loading again, so it's rebooting. I'm not sure exactly how long that's going to take, but.
What do you think, B-Fish? Well, I think Taylor Schabusiness is in a lot of trouble,
Does the
guys.
court wish that I make the sort of foundational questions? They're relatively brief.
Sure, why don't we do that? That will give us some more time. So go ahead, Mr. Lezay.
Thank you. Ms. Shannon, can you state for the record how you are employed?
I'm the Assistant Director for Brown County Public Safety Communications, such as the 911 Dispatch Center.
Can you just explain for the jury how the 911 dispatch center works in Brown County and how it relates to the other law enforcement agencies?
So the 911 Center takes the calls for all law enforcement, ambulance services.
All right, you want to
and
start with the
fire
911
departments
call?
Within Brown County.
Good
As
place
part
to
of
start.
that, all calls,
Works for me.
radio traffic that come in through our center are recorded, and then they are held in our center as evidence for 120 days. As were requested by agencies, we release that evidence back to them because it's technically their evidence. We're just the holders of that evidence.
And if a law enforcement agency makes a request that you retain a particular call or record, is that something that your agency does?
We do.
And are those calls, are they something that are easily discernible by the date and the location of the call?
Yes.
Does the system actually store the location of a phone call that comes in?
It depends on how it comes in, but yes.
And essentially, are you able to serve as a record keeper or records custodian for the 911 center given your current role?
That is part of my role, is to be the records custodian.
And how long have you worked with the 911 center overall?
Overall, over 10 years.
And were you asked by the Green Bay Police Department to record and maintain a call from February 22nd, actually February 23rd, 2022, I believe, at 3:24 a.m.?
Yes.
And as part of your work with the 911 center, did you have an opportunity to review a recorded phone call that came in on February 23rd at 3:24 a.m. from a residence located at 829 Stony Brook Lane?
Yes,
You had a chance to listen to that entire call?
I did.
And if we played that phone call for you, would you be able to identify that call?
Thank you,
Yes.
Tay Mal, for the $20 super chat.
Yeah,
This is
at
a
this
train
point, I
wreck
would
already, but
like
I
to
want
have
to watch all the
that
more.
call
I'm
used as an
disappointed I'm
exhibit.
leaving for Japan on Saturday. Hopefully this was the majority of
Well, I
action in
didn't hear
5
what he
days.
said.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
For the recording as an exhibit, and then he wants to play it.
I have no objection.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you are about to hear an audio recording. Recordings are proper evidence, and you may consider them just as any other evidence. Please listen carefully. Some parts might be hard to understand.
Okay. So now we're going to hear the 911 call that starts this rodeo. It's a good place to start, right? How does it all start? It starts with the 911 call, so it's a good place to start. If we get to hear the 911 call, which seems dubious. Here we
How may I
go.
help you? Yes, I'd like an officer at 829 Stony Brook. Girlfriend just woke me up and swears that she found her severed head of her son in a basement. Okay, can you repeat the address, sir?
That's one hell of a way to start the 911 call.
Okay, S-T-O-N.
That's one hell of a way to start a 911 call. Yeah, there's a severed head in a basement.
Is that a house, apartment, or duplex? It's a house. What's your phone number? My number is 327-3748. My name's Steve. 327-3748? Yes. What's your last name, Steve? Hendricks. Okay, tell me what's happening there again? I have no clue what's happening. My girl swears that she's found her severed head of her son in the basement. Did you go down there? In a bucket. I went down. I can't tell what the bucket. Pardon my language. I'm kind of a little freaked out. Okay. Did she just wake up and say that? Yeah.
My girl says she found a severed head in a
Whose
basement.
head is it? She's claiming it's her son. How old is her son? 24, 20, 25.
missing, or?
No, yeah, he was here yesterday with some chick, and then now all of a sudden nobody's here. And she came up to use the restroom a couple times, and she keeps calling and calling. And now she's saying that she hears the phone down there too.
Okay. Is she with you right now?
Yes, she's upstairs. She's a little freaked out, and I don't know what to do.
Okay. All right. Stay on the
She's a
line.
little freaked out. She found her son's head in a
you said you went down there,
bucket
correct?
in the basement.
Yeah, and I lifted the toe, but I can't see
This
very well.
guy
I can't
is
tell what the hell.
remarkably matter
So
of
there's
fact.
something in the bucket.
There's something that got dead body.
Yep, they're in the bucket. Just thought you guys might like to know.
If she won't
My
do it
wife
again,
seems a little
I-
upset right now,
I-
not sure what to do about it. She found a head in a
Do you
bucket,
think
thinks
she's
it's her son.
hallucinating, or do you think that?
I don't think so. I went down there, something in the damn bucket. I can't, I don't know, man. She's a little freaked out and kind of freaking me out.
What's your girlfriend's last name?
Packanek?
How do you spell that?
Oh, holy shit. You want to spell it?
You don't know how to spell her last name?
N-I-C-H.
You don't know how to spell your girlfriend's last name? That's good.
What's her first name?
Tara. T-A-R-A.
What's her middle initial, date of birth?
What's your middle initial? Hello?
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 Yep, my girlfriend's just, I don't know if it's I don't know what the problem is. She's a little freaked out right now. What's your day of birth here?
5/14/74.
All right, can I talk to
Well, I was
her?
thinking about going down to the
Yes,
fishing
you can.
hole later today. You think this will disrupt my plans?
Hello?
Hi, Tara. So can you tell me what's going on?
Are you positive my son's head is in a bucket, a round bucket in my basement?
What makes you think that?
Because I looked in the bucket.
What did you see?
Mom over here is also pretty calm, I have to
Okay,
say.
where's the?
She's a little freaked out. Mom is over here.
where's the rest of the
Yeah, I
body
found
at?
my son's head in a bucket.
No idea.
Okay. When's the last time you saw your son?
Well, I guess today is Wednesday, so I picked him up from his dad's on Monday. And because he doesn't normally stay here, he doesn't stay here for a few days. He left the laundry. He was here a couple hours, then he left with Taylor. And they
Who's he with?
Taylor,
Who's that?
girl, Taylor Coronado,
You know how to spell her last name?
Yep.
Coronado.
Woke up this morning and
No,
was going to make some
exactly.
eggs and some scrapple.
The common spelling
Went down into the
around here.
basement and there was a bucket there. Looked into the bucket and my son's head is in the bucket. A little upsetting to
He
me.
left with her.
Yep.
They both came back. I believe they both came back while we were sleeping Monday night. And I assume they slept all day yesterday, so I haven't seen him since Monday night physically. I thought they were sleeping all day. I was gone for a little while yesterday, Tuesday, and he's 25 and I'm on the basement.
All right.
What are you doing? You know what I mean?
All right. Well, we've got help.
And then I heard my door and her minivan start, and I went downstairs and I went to the bathroom. The lights were out in the basement. So I turned them off and I looked around and no one was there. So then when I turned around to come back upstairs, there was a 5-gallon bucket with a towel over it. And I'm like, oh great, that's why they're out here all day yesterday. They were pissing in a bucket. And I looked, and that is not what was in that bucket.
What is your son's name?
Shad Thyrion,
C-H-A-D.
S-H-A-D,
How do you spell his last name?
Thyrion.
What's his date of birth?
9797.
Is there blood down there?
No.
Okay. All right, ma'am. I have officers that are headed over to your house right now, okay?
Head over.
Okay, I'll go down there.
I guess just stay away from it. Just stay away.
From that area, but we're on the second. level, so we're gonna go down to the kitchen and not to the basement.
Okay,
We
yep.
can answer the door and stuff.
Okay, all right, ma'am.
My 16-year-old daughter is sleeping.
Excuse me?
My 16-year-old daughter is here sleeping.
Okay.
They do not make a lot of noise. I don't know.
Okay, just let them know that. I'm sure they won't try, okay?
My heart is jumped out of my head for being so. Oh.
And, I mean, you're sure it couldn't be like a fake head or something?
I'm not touching it. I'm not looking at it again.
Okay. All right, ma'am. Just go ahead and wait for the officers, okay?
Oh, Lord.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, that was an interesting 911 call. Very calm. Very sort of matter of
Ms.
fact.
Shannon, the audio recording that was just played,
okay.
is that consistent with the recording that was retained by the 911 center for the call from the address on Stony Brook Drive on February 23rd of 2022?
Yes.
Your Honor, for the record, I believe that we played the entirety of the audio recording, which is 7 minutes and 13 seconds. I would ask that the recording be admitted as an exhibit.
Any objection, Mr. Freilich?
No.
All right, that exhibit will be received.
I have no further questions from Ms. Shannon.
All right, Mr. Freilich, cross-examination?
Sure. Ms. Shannon, morning.
Good morning.
How is a recording like that kept
Okay.
by the 911 dispatch center?
All calls and radio traffic coming into our center are recorded automatically. We have a recording system, and regardless of how it's coming in, phone or radio, it's recorded, and it stays in that recording. We have it set for 180 days.
Okay. Do you, at least for the recording that we just heard, was that then downloaded to a disc or something?
Yes, and then we also keep it on a separate drive to make sure that it doesn't go away, because those do automatically clear after 180 days. So we downloaded it to a disk as evidence, and then we also keep a recording of it in house.
So is it your testimony that you preserved that tape from February 23rd of 2022?
Yes.
And then it was, what, was it sent to the Green Bay Police Department, the District Attorney's Office? Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
It was sent to the district attorney's office,
Okay. And then they kept it in their custody?
as far as I know.
Okay. But 911 dispatch center still has a copy as well?
Yes.
Was there any way that that recording was altered in any way?
No.
Do only certain people have access to it?
Yes.
Who was that?
Myself, and then we have a group of supervisors. They are the people who make the recordings. We have one person who is assigned to do it, but if he's not there, then any of the supervisors can. But they're the only ones that have access to that drive.
That 911 tape that we just heard, it wasn't excised or modified in any way, shape, or form, was it?
No.
And it was downloaded off the mainframe computer at the dispatch
The
center?
server, yes.
Okay, off the server?
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. Oh, one more. This was kept in the regular course of business of the 911 dispatch center?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Nothing further.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Those were very insightful cross-examination questions. I'm really glad that you asked them. Well, why even bother? Does it seem like you're doing something? I guess.
Calls Officer Alex Wanish.
Okay. All right. Fine. Why did the defense ask any of those questions? Did it make it seem like you're doing something? Or hope that the vague insinuation that the recording could have been manipulated might somehow permeate? Okay, great.
Officer,
Thanks.
just want to step right up over
That's
here
great.
before you have
Good
a
work.
seat. Turn and face her and raise your right hand. She'll place you under oath.
You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the matter now before the court, so help you God.
Yes, sir.
Please have a seat and state your name for the record.
I'm guessing you're the guy who found the bucket, that found the head in the bucket.
W-A-N-I-S-H.
Okay, and then if you could just make sure you stay close to the microphone so we can all hear you. and we'll
Please
have
tell
you
us
just
about
on
what
the
you
list.
found when you went to the place. Well, I found a head in the bucket.
Officer, how are you employed?
With the City of Green Bay Police Department as a patrol officer.
And how long have you been employed as a patrol officer with Green Bay PD?
Since April of 2019.
And is that the totality of your law enforcement experience?
I worked about a year and a half prior to that with the City of Manitowoc.
So about 2017 is when your law enforcement career started?
Correct.
And can you outline for us what training you received to be a police officer?
I went through the 720 Academy at NWTC. Before that, I went to UW-Platteville for my 4-year bachelor degree in criminal justice.
And what are some of your regular duties as a police officer?
Well, my regular
Taking
duties
any
include
dispatch call
finding
that
heads
comes
and
out,
buckets.
traffic, that kind of stuff.
Sort of respond to the initial incidents?
Correct.
And then do you kind of conduct follow-through investigation as well?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Officer, I want to ask you about February 23rd of 2022. Do you recall if you were working in that capacity on that day?
Yes, I was.
Directing your attention to about 3:25 a.m., were you dispatched to a call around that time?
Yes.
To where were you dispatched?
The address was 829 Stony Brook, City of Green Bay, Brown County.
And is that an area of Green Bay that you're familiar with in your regular patrol duties?
Yes, it is.
And I guess what area of Green Bay is that?
It's the west side, I guess the closest major intersection between Mason and Military.
And what was the reason you were dispatched to that residence?
The initial call came out that the complainant's
Nick
girlfriend
Gass, usually
found
come
her
for the
son's
critical and
severed
rational
head in a
thinking, but
bucket
I'm
in the
enjoying the
basement.
funny commentary, making me laugh a lot, buddy. You're on song
Did
tonight.
you arrive
Thank you,
at
Nick,
the
and thank you
Stony
for the
Brook
super
residence?
chat. It
Yes,
is
I did.
appreciated.
But were any
Hope
other
you're having a
officers
great
with you in
morning.
that initial time period?
Officer Plonky arrived at the same time as I did.
And what happened when you got to the residence?
We made contact with the complainant and then his girlfriend, and we started talking to them, and then we were directed to the basement where the bucket was located. Officer Plonky remained upstairs just to keep an eye on the rest of the house. I went downstairs. At the bottom of the stairs to the right, there was a green bucket with a shower towel on top of it, just to verify we had an actual head in the bucket. Lifted the towel off, and there was, in fact, a human severed head in the bucket.
So I want to back up just a little bit. When you got to the residence, you said you met with the complainant. Was that Stephen Hendricks?
Correct.
Okay. And then you said his girlfriend was also present?
Yes.
And who is that person?
First name is Tara.
Tara, okay. And Officer Plonky stayed with those individuals?
Correct.
Right? Okay. And then you went down to the basement?
Yes.
Is that right? Okay. And you mentioned observing the bucket. I guess where in the basement was that located?
As you go down the stairs, if you turn to the immediate right, it was at the bottom of the stairs to the right.
Was it in pretty close proximity to the stairs?
Yes.
After you made that observation, what did you do?
After I pulled the towel off,
Yes.
I had Officer Plonky come downstairs and just verify we had, in fact, found a human head in the bucket. And then we started to notify a supervisor and then ask for additional units.
And at that time, on February 23rd, 2022, did your department utilize body-worn cameras?
Yes.
Is that something that was operating on that day?
Oh, are we
Yes.
going to see a body-worn camera of
Did you have a chance
this?
to review your body-worn camera
Oh.
prior to your testimony today?
Yes, I did.
Sure, let's see
If
the
you were able
bucket,
to
baby.
observe that here in court, would you be able to recognize it?
Yes, I'll be able to.
Okay.
Wow, let's see this. Well, a patrol officer,
Your
I
Honor,
responded to
propose
911
play
calls. I
Exhibit
found a
2.
head in
It's
the
approximately
bucket.
6 minutes.
The objection?
No objection.
It's absurd. So crazy. It is ridiculous. Oh, man. What's in the bucket? What's in the bucket? What's in the bucket?
and playing Exhibit 2 beginning at 0 seconds.
Oh, Lord. Okay, guys. Well, in case the channel gets taken down, it's been a privilege streaming with you. It's 3:30 in the morning, apparently. Yeah.
Okay.
Hold on.
Did you both see this? I opened the towel, I picked up the towel and dropped it because I don't know what the fuck it is, man. I have bad vision. And she's like, is that what I think it is? I'm like, I don't fucking know what the fuck it is.
Do you want to stay with those two? I was going to see it.
Yeah.
Where's it at?
So right there. Look right, there's a bucket with a towel on it.
Just keep that.
I think Law and Crime cut away. I think Law and Crime's like, yeah, maybe we won't show that. Nope, we're back in the basement, guys. Law and Crime's debating whether or not they want to show it, I guess.
Come here.
Hold on 1 second.
Let's just. Okay. Hold on. Just. That's real, right? That's real low. Alcohol. I got 4 Ed 1 to 82 Sam.
I don't think it's a ruling from the judge. I think it's court. I think it's Law and Crime making the call.
I know you're busy over there, but this is actually what it's going to be. It's not going to be a 961 thing or a 96 thing, so we're going to need more units here.
The cops are very, very calm for having just found a head in a bucket, I must say. The cops are just like, everyone's just like, this is normal. The cops are like, yep, head in a bucket. Just normal stuff, man. Is this just like a Wisconsin thing? Everyone's like, this is just totally normal? Cops are like, yeah, it's just a head in a bucket, just another day, man.
If there's anybody supposed to be there.
Was that Fred 1? No for right now.
Taylor Schabusiness has a creepy look on her face right now. Dude, look at her face. It's almost like a satisfaction. Dude, she did it.
If
She
we can
totally
get
did
more
it. Look at her
units here
face.
sooner rather than later, that'd be appreciated.
She did it.
We've got quite a bit of blood down here. I want to clear this rest of this house. We've got 2 people in the house for sure.
This is ridiculous.
We're gonna obviously contain this area, okay? So we're having some more units right? I mean, we're not.
And for the record, the entirety of Exhibit 2, approximately 5 minutes 59 seconds, was played. Officer, having reviewed the exhibit, do you recognize the video that was depicted?
Yes, I do.
Does that appear to be consistent with your body-worn camera footage that you observed?
Yes, it is.
And does that appear to also be consistent with your recollection of the scene on Stony Brook Lane on February 23rd?
Correct.
I'd move Exhibit 2.
Any objection?
No objection.
The Exhibit 2 will be received.
So, Officer, I want to ask a few questions about that.
Okay.
When you arrived, which door to the residence did you enter through?
It would have been the side door off the driveway.
Okay. And was there a sort of a storm door that was part of that door as well?
Yes, I believe so.
All right. After you observed the bucket, it appeared that you walked around the basement area of the residence. Is that right?
Yes, it did.
At that point, did you see any other parts of a human body?
No other parts of a human body, no.
Okay. Did you notice any areas of potential blood?
Yes.
And where was that?
Beyond the stack of mattresses, there appeared to be blood on the floor and then small chunks of human flesh.
In other areas of that basement, did you locate any obvious signs of blood?
There was a dried blood stain on the mattresses, and that was all that I remember seeing.
After you and Officer Plonky, was that the officer who is also depicted in that video?
Yes, it is.
Did other officers arrive on scene?
Yes.
And what did you and the other officers do at that point?
Sergeant Brester was next to arrive on scene. I kind of informed him of what we had up to this point and then what we needed to do next. We had two other officers responding. Once we got all the officers there that we needed, we conducted a protective sweep of the residence just to make sure there was no other people that we needed to know about, just to make sure that there was no other potential threats.
And you're the first officer to testify, so I'll ask you this because we've heard this term. What is a protective sweep?
It's not a search or anything like that. It's just conducting a sweep of the house just to make sure there's no other people hiding or no other threats.
So essentially a search for people?
Yeah.
Okay. Other than the towel that you lifted off the bucket, was any object moved or rummaged through by officers?
Not the initial responding officers, no.
Okay. And then at some point, do detectives and other personnel arrive on scene?
Yes.
I guess, what do you do after the protective sweep then?
We maintain the scene. Officer Linsmeyer and Officer O'Donnell transported Stephen and Tara to the police department along with their 16-year-old daughter, Ava. Sergeant Brester, Officer Plonky, and I remained on scene just to secure the scene and then wait for additional resources to respond, such as detectives.
What efforts did you undertake as part of your maintaining the scene that you referenced?
Just making sure that no one got in or out of that residence. Started a crime scene log just to keep track of who was coming and going as far as officers go. And then we ended up putting up crime scene tape around the house as well.
The crime scene log, is that something that you maintained?
Yeah, until I was relieved by day shift.
And I guess that just tracks who enters and leaves the residence?
Correct.
And there was, I think you mentioned crime scene tape that was affixed as well around the house?
Yes.
Thank you, officer. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Cross-examination.
Officer Waters, good morning.
Morning.
You were working for the Green Bay Police Department on February 23rd of 2022, correct?
Yes, I was.
And you were on uniform patrol in a fully marked squad, correct?
Yes.
And you were dispatched over to 829 Stony Brook Lane, correct?
Correct.
That area is kind of by Fireman's Park where all the kids go sledding, correct?
Yes.
It's behind it?
It would be to the east of it.
Okay. Who dispatched you over to this location?
It was a dispatch call, and we were the only available units in the city, so Officer Plank and I responded.
Okay. And were you told that there was a suspicious situation over there?
I believe that's how the call was coded.
And the complainant was the male that you heard on there, correct?
Yes.
Did you later find him to be Stephen Hendricks?
Correct.
Who was the first person you talked to when you got to the Stony Brook Lane residence?
Female by the first name of Tara.
Was it Tara Pakinich?
Yes.
And that video, the officer that first entered was Officer Plonky, correct?
That is correct.
And then you followed behind?
Yes.
And the complainant said there was something in a bucket, but he couldn't tell what it was. Is that correct?
That is what he told us.
And you talked to Tara Pakinich, and she said that she thought it was her son's head in a bucket down in the basement?
That's correct.
And then did you ask where the body was?
I don't recall asking that specific question.
But after you did a search, you didn't find a body, did you?
I did not.
Okay. In the basement, you didn't find any people down there, correct?
Correct.
The only people that were at the house was Tara Pakinich, Stephen Hendricks, and Tara's daughter, Ava Wheelock. Is that right?
That's correct.
And this house, is it essentially have like a basement, floor level, and then an upstairs loft?
Yes, that's accurate.
There's like basically kind of like 3 floors, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And when you arrived, you knocked on the door, that side door that we saw, correct?
Yes.
It's right off the driveway, correct?
Yes.
And this was at nighttime, correct?
Yes, it was.
About 3:25 a.m.?
Correct.
And the people that you had contact with, Tara and Stephen, were they in shock?
Yeah, they both seemed to be in a state of shock.
Had they been sleeping prior to your arrival?
They were both awake and in the kitchen when we made contact.
But before you got there, was it your understanding that they went to bed and then something happened where they woke up and then they called the police?
Yes.
Okay. And did both Mr. Hendricks and Ms. Pakinich attempt to describe to you what they found or what they saw?
Yes.
Did they indicate that Shad Thyrion would come to the residence on Stony Brook for a few days and then would leave and come back and do laundry and things of that sort?
Yeah, they said that it was not his primary residence.
You're the first one that went down in the basement?
Correct.
And you had a flashlight with you?
Yes, I did.
It's kind of a high-powered flashlight so you can see, right?
Yes.
You went down to take a closer look at the contents of the bucket?
Correct.
And when you got to the bottom of the stairs, was there a laundry room area?
Yes, as you go down the stairs, the laundry room was directly to the left.
And then there was an open room as well?
Yes.
Was the open room to the right?
Yes, it was.
And was that used for storage?
It appeared to be. And then there was a stack of mattresses in the middle of the room as well.
Okay. And at some point then you saw the bucket, correct?
Yes.
And was there anything over the bucket?
There was a striped towel.
Okay. And was it over the top of it?
Yeah, it was completely covering the inside of the bucket.
Okay. Was it your discretion or duty to move the towel?
Yes, I had to verify what we had.
Okay. Now, did you have gloves on at all?
Yes, I did.
What kind of gloves?
Just regular patrol gloves.
Okay. When did you put those gloves on? Do you know?
Typically, I put them on as soon as I get out of my car to go to any call.
But for this particular night, did you have them on?
Yes, I did.
When did you put them on?
Typically, I put them on right after I get out of my car, because I believe I would have put them on at that point.
Right after you got out of the squad car?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have them on when you went in that side door?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And did you keep them on during the entire time that you were in the Stony Brook Lane house?
Yes.
You removed the towel?
I did remove the towel from the bucket.
And then at some point, did you ask Officer Plonky to come and take a look as well?
Yes, I did.
At any point in time after you were done looking, did you put the towel back?
Once it was removed from the bucket, it was not placed back on the bucket.
Was it just allowed to lay on the floor, or what? Tell me what you know about that.
I believe it was just moved to the side and it was put on the floor next to the bucket.
Do you know if anybody in the house, Mr. Hendricks or Miss Pakinich, had touched what was in the bucket or moved it in any way?
I believe they both looked at it based on what they were saying to us, as far as Stephen couldn't tell what it was and Tara was positive it was her son's head.
Okay. You asked for additional units, correct?
Yes, I did.
And you asked for a supervisor?
Yes.
Did they come right away?
Yes.
On the video, we see that you pulled out your service revolver, correct?
That's correct.
Were you doing a protective sweep to make sure nobody was in the residence in the basement?
Yes.
Did you go through the entire house to see if there was anybody else in there?
Eventually, once we had more officers on scene, we cleared the rest of the house.
Okay. Did you see Taylor Schabusiness in the house when you were there?
She was not present when I was there.
Okay. Great.
And when you were looking around in the basement, it's true that you did not observe a body or any other body parts belonging to the severed head, correct?
That is correct.
Tara's daughter was in a bedroom on the ground level, correct?
Yeah, main floor.
And she was sleeping?
Correct.
Did she get up at some point then?
Yes, during our protective sweep, she was woken up.
Okay. And then did you transport Mr. Hendricks, Miss Pakinich, and Miss Wheelock to the police department, or did someone else do that?
Officer Linsmar and Officer O'Donnell completed that.
Okay. Did you maintain a crime scene log?
I started the crime scene log until I was relieved.
Okay. And who were you relieved by?
Officer Zawicki.
And then did you secure the crime scene?
Yes, we remained on scene to secure it.
Was that with Officer Plonky?
Yes.
And when you secure the crime scene, how do you do that?
We eventually put up the crime scene tape, but in the meantime, we just maintained the residence as the primary point of entry.
Now, on that video, when you're walking up the driveway, whose vehicles are in that driveway? Do you know?
I don't recall exactly who's the registered owner of those vehicles.
Do you know if the vehicles belong to Miss Pakinich, Mr. Hendricks?
I don't know for certain, but it's possible.
Okay. Did you confirm if any vehicle belonging to Taylor Schabusiness was in that driveway on that particular date when you were there?
I personally did not.
Okay. And was Sergeant Brester on the scene as well?
Yes.
What was his role?
When I requested a supervisor, he was the supervisor that responded.
Okay. And did he come into the residence?
Yes, he did.
Did he go down in the basement to verify anything?
I believe he did, because he assisted with the protective sweep.
Okay. When you were there, did anything happen that would have caused the crime scene to be disturbed in any way?
No.
And did Mr. Hendricks indicate to you that he wasn't able to see what was in the bucket?
Yeah, you did mention something about difficulty with his vision.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
Can you redirect?
Wow, insightful.
Thank you.
Great cross-examination. I really blowing apart the prosecution's case in every way. Wow, these questions are really revealing the defense's strategy, which is apparently praying. Apparently the defense strategy is a lot of praying and hoping and wishing that the prosecution will screw up at some point. Whoa, halfway there. Whoa, living on a prayer. Take my hand, we'll make it, I swear. Whoa, living on a prayer.
Your officer, and before you have a seat, you can turn and face her and raise your right hand. She'll place you under oath.
Oh, man.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the matter now before the court, so help you God? Please have a seat and state your
I
name
also
for the
found a
record.
head. I also was there. I also saw a head in a bucket.
My name
It was
is
a head
Ethan
in a
Blomke,
bucket.
and I work with the Green Bay Police Department.
Okay.
And sir, if you could just make sure you stay close to the microphone so we can hear you. You're pretty close right now, so you're probably good. With that, I will. The witness is yours, Mr. Saunders.
So how are you employed with the Green Bay Police Department?
I am a patrol officer.
And how long have you been employed as a patrol officer?
Just over 3 years.
Is that the entirety of your law enforcement experience?
Yes.
Okay. And I want to ask you, Officer,
I'm not sure how much
about
experience you
February
need to determine that there's a
23rd,
head in the bucket, but
2022. Do you recall if you were on duty?
this is
for
my
your
first day on
department
the
that
job.
day?
I was.
I found a
And,
head in a
Do you recall
bucket.
being dispatched to a residence on Stony Brook Lane
I
that
do.
day? And do you recall approximately what time you were dispatched?
I don't recall the exact time.
Was it like in the morning, the night, in the middle of the day?
Yes, early morning.
Okay. And why were you dispatched to that residence?
Head in a bucket.
For a report of a female who had supposedly observed her son's severed head in a bucket in the basement.
And when you got to that residence, what did you do?
I looked for the head in the
I made
bucket.
contact with the two individuals inside the residence.
I'm gonna answer the
They
questions
were,
myself 'cause they're fun.
I believe a Stephen Hendricks and a Tara Pakinich. And then myself and Officer Wanish were the first to arrive on scene and make contact with them.
And then what did you do after you met with Tara and Steve?
Went downstairs to look for the head in the
I asked
bucket.
them what had occurred, to which Tara began to tell me her side of the story. While she was telling me her story, Officer Wanish had gone into the basement to look into this bucket that she had found. And that's when he told me that he did find a severed head in the bucket.
Did you then go down to the basement as well?
I did.
And what did you observe when you got to the basement?
I observed a black 5-gallon bucket to the
Just
right of
answer
the
every
stairs
single
as I go
question
down.
with head in a bucket. Why
There
were
was
you
a
there?
beach towel
Head
over
in the
that.
bucket. What'd you
that
do?
now had
Look
been
for the
moved
head
away.
in the bucket.
And
What'd you
in
find?
that
A head
bottom
in
of
the
the bucket
bucket.
was a severed head. And that's how I located.
What did you do at that point?
I then looked around the basement.
Ando, you're right.
Myself
There
and
is a
Officer
lot of
Wanish
vocal fry.
decided that we were going to have to clear the residence for any other threats that were going to be in the house.
And I guess was anyone else in the house other than the people you talked about earlier?
A teenage daughter, I believe, of the complainant was sleeping upstairs in her bedroom.
Where was
And I guess
her head?
Upstairs,
Not
what
in a
part of the
bucket.
house was that?
Either the first or the second floor. I believe it was the first floor, though.
And did other officers then arrive on scene?
Yes.
And what did you do at that point?
I stayed with the complainants, Tara and Steven, while the other additional officers cleared the residence.
And by, I guess, what do you mean by cleared, just in everyday jargon?
Oh, sorry. So they would make sure the residents didn't have any other threats, like anybody else that was not supposed to be in the residence were not there. And I just stayed with Tara and Steven to make sure that they were safe while this residence was being checked.
Were they, and by they I mean Tara and Steve, were they transported away from the house?
Yes, by additional officers that had arrived on scene.
What did you do at that point?
While after they were transported?
Yes.
I just stood by on scene with Officer Wanish and Sergeant Brester until detectives and more officers could arrive to relieve us.
And did you assist Officer Wanish with crime scene tape around the area?
Yes, at the front of the residence before we had left.
And I guess generally were you sort of monitoring if people were coming and going in the house?
Yes, made sure nobody else had entered the crime scene.
The people who had entered the house, were they all members or affiliates of law enforcement?
Yes.
Thank you, Officer. I have nothing further.
Cross-examination, Mr. Fraley.
Thank you. Officer Plonky, a couple questions for you. So on Wednesday, February 23rd of 2022, you were working in full uniform patrol, correct?
Correct.
Was this zone 4E2?
That was my call sign.
Okay. Were you dispatched over to 829 Stony Brook Lane in Green Bay?
Correct.
And you received some information over dispatch, right?
Yes.
This residence, was it near like the Fireman's Park area?
Yes.
What report did you receive?
That it was the boyfriend, Stephen, who called, but his girlfriend had woken him up, stating that she had gone into the basement and found her son's severed head in a bucket.
So you went over there to that residence, correct?
Correct.
By yourself in a fully marked squad?
I went over there in my own squad, but Officer Wanish came at the same time as I did.
Okay. And so then you parked on the street?
Yes.
And the two of you officers walked up?
Yes.
And it was dark outside, there was snow on the ground, correct?
Correct.
And who made contact with the residents first?
I believe I interacted with them first.
Okay. You're the one that knocked on the door, correct?
Correct.
And then the door opened and you kind of went inside a bit?
Yep.
Did you see some vehicles in the driveway?
I can't recall vehicles.
You don't recall if any vehicles were in the driveway when you walked up?
I don't recall. There might have been.
Okay. Do you know if the vehicles belonged to Tara Pakinich and Stephen Hendricks?
Well, since I didn't observe any
vehicles in there, I didn't run
vehicles,
the
I
license
couldn't really
plates
speak
and
to the
didn't ask
vehicles
about
that were
who
there
they
that I
belonged
didn't
to.
observe.
Okay.
Now, can I?
And
Dumb
when you got
question.
to the door, you had some discussions with Miss Pakinich and Mr. Hendricks, correct?
Correct.
Did you
And
observe
then,
any vehicles? I can't recall. Did
what
the
did you do?
vehicles
Did you
belong
go
to these
inside?
people?
Correct.
What
I
vehicles?
was inside talking to them.
Okay. And then did Officer Wanish follow behind you?
Yes.
So were you on the first floor in the kitchen area where there was a table?
That's where I spoke to Stephen and Tara.
Okay. Try to find out what was going on, correct?
Correct.
And then was there a decision made between the two of you for one to go down and check what was going on in the basement?
Correct. Officer Wanish decided to go down and confirm what they were telling us.
Okay. As far as seniority, who had more seniority, Officer Wanish or yourself?
Officer Wanish has more seniority than I do.
Who cares?
So he took the bull by the horns and went down in the basement to check it out?
Correct.
And you maintained things upstairs?
Correct.
And then did you stand at the top of the stairs looking down to kind of keep in contact with Officer Wanish?
Correct.
And at some point then, were you asked to come down and verify as well what was in the bucket?
Yes.
And you did that?
I did.
Did you talk to Stephen Hendricks?
I made some conversation with him. I mainly talked to Tara.
Okay. But did Mr. Hendricks tell you that he went down to look at the bucket and you couldn't tell what it was?
Yes, I believe that was partially because he had just woken up and was almost in a state of shock.
Okay. Tara Pakinich was in a state of shock too? Is that fair?
Seemed to be that way.
And was it your understanding that Tara woke up for some reason, correct?
She heard the door close, I believe, to the residence.
The side door that you had come into?
Correct.
Okay. And then did she, what made her go downstairs? Do you know?
She was woken by the door, and I believe she wanted to check if there was anybody still inside of the house or if they had entered or left.
Did she find anybody inside the house?
She did not locate anybody that was alive in the house.
And did she tell you that she went downstairs to verify the basement situation?
Correct.
And then that caused her to have the police called?
Correct.
But before the police were called, was it such that Ms. Pakinich went up to tell her significant other, Stephen Hendricks, what she saw?
Since he called for police, I believe that's what happened.
Okay. When you were talking to Tara Pakinich, did she indicate that her son would sometimes come over for meals and do laundry and things like that?
Correct.
When you were in the residence, when you came in the residence, did you have any kind of patrol gloves on at all?
I don't recall.
Okay. When you went down in the basement, did you have gloves on?
I don't recall.
Okay.
Okay. Do you have any questions that matter, sir?
I'll strike that. Is it fair to say when you went down the stairs into the basement, you looked inside the bucket several times?
Yes.
Did you have a flashlight as well?
I always had my flashlight on duty.
Did you use the flashlight?
I most likely did, yeah.
Okay. And then you looked around in the basement, correct?
I glanced around the basement, yes.
You didn't see anybody down there, correct?
Nobody else down there, no.
Then at some point you went back up the stairs, is that fair?
Correct.
The bucket that you saw, what color was it?
Black, I believe.
And where was it located?
Just to the right of the stairs if you were to walk down.
Like if you walk down the stairs, would it be like around the corner?
To the right, you would be able to see it as soon as you got
What
down
color is
at
the
bottom of
bucket?
stairs.
Okay.
Questions
So
I didn't think to
as
ask.
you get off the last step.
Maybe
then you
he's
would
a
see the
better
bucket on the
attorney
right.
than me. I
Correct.
did not think to ask the question,
Did you
what color
move
was the
the
bucket? I
contents
have
of
to
the
admit,
bucket at all?
You got me, sir.
No, I did not touch any of the contents.
There was a towel on the bucket and it was removed by Officer Wanish, correct?
Yes.
Did you look at the towel?
I believe I would also have seen the towel, yes.
Where was that sitting? Was it right on the floor next to the bucket or?
It might have been. I cannot recall exactly where the towel was at that point.
Spectre asks, is this normal? This is normal
Backup
when you have
officers
nothing.
arrived, correct?
Correct.
And
Either
then
you
who
don't ask
transported,
questions or you ask questions
Tara
that you
Pakinich,
hope
Stephen Hendricks, and
might
Ava Wheelock
possibly
to the police department?
insinuate
Additional
a
officers,
problem.
it was not me, and I don't know which officers.
It depends, has nothing.
Exactly
So
took that responsibility.
this is typical when you have
Was
zero.
the daughter woken up right away after you got there?
Look
During the
like
protective
you ask
sweep,
questions so
officers
you
had
look like you're
awoken her
doing
as they were
something.
going to the bedrooms.
And,
Where do
and
these people,
hope vaguely that some insinuation maybe will
Sit
help
or stand?
You.
What I mean,
So
when you were there,
this is
I
typical
mean,
when the
Tara
defendant is
Pakinich,
very,
Steve
very
Hendricks,
guilty.
and Ava Wheelock. Were they sitting
Extremely
at the
guilty.
kitchen table on chairs? Were they standing in the kitchen?
Who cares?
There was points where Tara and Stephen might have been standing, but they were in the kitchen when I was with them.
Were they sitting? Were they
When you were
standing
there,
in the kitchen?
Tara, Steve, or Ava?
Were they
Ava go down
playing
in the basement?
bridge?
No.
Did they go outside to play horseshoes?
And was it your understanding that Stephen, that Stephen and Tara, they slept upstairs in the loft part?
Correct. That's what I believe it was laid out as.
And then was it your understanding that the ground level, it had like a kitchen and a bedroom, and that's where Ava slept?
Correct.
Then there was this finished basement, correct?
Correct.
In the basement, there was a laundry area, is that fair?
Correct.
Storage area?
Correct.
It was kind of messy down there, correct?
It was cluttered, like as a lot of basements are.
Lots of stuff down there?
Correct.
And officers did a protective sweep of the house. And
Was there anything
found
unusual
no
about
other
the
threats,
basement?
correct?
Yes, there was a head in a bucket.
And then you waited on the scene and you started a crime scene log, correct?
That is
Correct.
atypical.
When you
in my
start a crime
experience.
scene log, can you tell me what that involves?
So starting a crime scene log is you put the address, and then you start listing all the occupants who have entered and left the crime scene. So like my name would go on it, Sergeant Brester, Officer Wanish, and then we would mark like their reason for being there and then their time in and out.
Okay. And you did that?
I started it, yes.
Okay. Did you also assist Officer Wanish with putting up crime scene tape?
Correct.
Is that kind of like the yellow crime scene tape that we see on TV?
Correct.
Where did you put the crime scene tape?
I believe we just outlined the front yard of the residence.
Where'd you put the crime
marking,
scene tape?
holding
Where do you
around
think I put
trees
the
and
crime
making
scene
sure
tape?
that everybody could see that
Take
they
a
were
guess.
not supposed to enter the property.
Did it cover the front door of Stony Brook
It would have encompassed the front door.
and the side door of Stony Brook?
I can't recall exactly if we had brought crime scene tape up to the back point.
Okay, nothing further. Thank you.
Redirect?
Thank you.
Was there anything unusual about the basement? Yes, there's a head in a bucket. Thank you.
Okay,
No
ladies
further
and gentlemen, we're going
questions.
to take our mid-morning break. It's about 5 after 10. We'll take about a 10-minute break.
All right, guys.
All rise for the
Got a little break time. Exciting. As Taylor Schabusiness sips some water and looks absolutely guilty as hell, we turn our attention to an exit sign. Taylor Schabusiness is guilty. She's completely guilty. The defense has absolutely nothing, and they know it. The defense is doing the last refuge of the defense, right? The last refuge of the defense is I always have burden of proof. Like that's the last refuge when I have nothing else to work with. And I can't attack the investigation. I can't attack the crime scene handling. Can't attack anything about like what crime scene investigation did. I have nothing. I have absolutely zero things. The last refuge, the ultimate refuge of the defense, is I can always put the state to the burden of proof. And we heard exactly that in the opening, guys. So the defense's entire opening is I have nothing. I have zero things. But that's okay, because the state has the burden of proof, and they're obligated to prove this to you beyond a reasonable doubt. And did you know that beyond a reasonable doubt is really important? And the defendant may or may not take the stand, but that's okay, because we don't have to prove anything because the state has the burden of proof, which is beyond a reasonable doubt, don't you know? And that's basically where we are. And the defense's cross-examination has been, so let me ask you some questions that don't matter, but maybe we can maybe the jury will think they matter. Maybe if I'm really lucky, maybe the jury will think that the questions matter or the answers matter, or maybe I can vaguely insinuate somehow that the cops did something wrong in some way. Or maybe the cop will just break down on the stand. Oh my God, I can't believe we screwed up this investigation. Maybe if I prod them, maybe they'll do like a Matlock moment or something. So it's going great. It's going great. John Doe points out, yes, they can still get acquitted. You never know. That is fair, John. That is true. You never know what a jury's going to do. That is true. Right. So, if there's no plea deal offered by the state, hey, you never know. Maybe someone will be bamboozled or confused, or maybe a juror will have a stroke in the middle of a trial and think that, rainbows are stones or something. I don't know. So, yeah, this is going great. Was there disagreement on the color of the bucket? I don't know if there was. What did the one say orange and the other say black? Okay. Did you find Taylor Schabusiness in the property? No. Was her car there? No. Does the basement have storage space? Was it cluttered? Okay, it's going about that well. Well, I'm having more fun here than I thought that I'd have, just because of the absurdity of it all. It's ridiculous. It's completely ridiculous and absurd, and nothing makes any sense. But that's okay. It doesn't have to make sense to the 450 of you who are here. Thank you for joining us. Yeah. Question, can they try to get her off with the jury on an insanity plea, or is that out? I don't know how Wisconsin works in this domain, whether or not they allow a plea of insanity or not. Of course, either way, whether or not they allow a plea of insanity, they can effectively argue insanity, because it ultimately goes to the mens rea, the mental element of it. So even in states where they don't allow the insanity defense, as such, it's basically just rolled into the defense. So you can always plead insanity, even in states that don't allow it. Well, strictly speaking, you can't plead it, but you can argue it. It's a very technical thing. But yeah, you can argue. You can always argue insanity. Let's put it that way. Whether or not you can plead insanity or not, right? Because if you're insane, you can't form the mental state. So you can always do that. But that doesn't seem to be the direction we're going to go, right? If we were going to do that, we would have teed that up. If that was our strategy, we would have teed that up in the opening. We would have been like, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, if this is our strategy, right? Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we do not deny that Taylor Schabusiness did the act, but she was not in her right mind. You will hear from experts who will tell you that she was insane. And you will hear from this witness, this witness, this witness, who will testify that Taylor Schabusiness did things that prove that she was not in her right mind. And at the end of the day, you will be convinced that she was unable to form the mental state. Obviously, you dress that up a little bit differently, but that's the idea, right? So, but you would have teed that up. So we're not going that route. We're not going that route. It doesn't seem. I'm not sure what route we're going. At this point, we're just going with the state. The state has to prove it, though. That seems to be what we're doing. So we're not apparently we're not denying she did it. Apparently we're not denying she's staying. We're denying the state has the evidence. Great. Yeah, sure. Let's go with that. So, yeah. It's in their filings. Okay, fair enough. Maybe they did plead insanity. Okay. So, sure. But if that's the strategy they were going to go, you think they would have teed that up in their opening, and they didn't. They didn't tee that up in their opening. They didn't tee. You will hear witnesses who will testify that Schabusiness was insane. And, in a jury trial, you can't really have it both ways, right? If you were in a bench trial or you're making like an argument to the Court of Appeals, you can argue in the alternative, but you can't really do that with a jury. You can't really you can't really, as a defense lawyer, be like, she didn't do it. But if she did, she was insane at the time. Right? That doesn't really work with a jury. Right? You can't really. So, yeah. And you would think that. So it's like at this point, you just kind of have to commit to an option. You have to commit. Right? Take your pick. It's like, what is your theory of the case? My theory of the case is they didn't do it. My theory of the case is they did it, but they weren't sane. My theory of the case apparently is the state can't prove it. So if they intend to offer experts, they didn't tee that up, and I'm not really super thrilled. So they might have teed it up in their filings. They might have teed it up in their filings to preserve their options, which would make sense. That you want to keep because that makes sense as a lawyer. You want to keep your options open as long as you can, because why commit before you have to? Particularly because you don't want to let the other side know for sure what you're going to do, right? Because you want to make them prep for avenues that you're not going to pursue. So as a lawyer, you want to try to keep your options open as long as you can. So it would make absolute sense to me that in their filings, they argued both, because they want to keep the option open. They want to confuse the other side as to what they will or will not do. They want to make them waste time and resources on avenues they never intend to explore. So in their filings, did they argue it? Yes. But I don't think that's where they're going. So I don't really think that's what they're intending to prove. And if it is, they've teed it up horribly. So their filings may not be reflective of what's actually happening. What actually seems to be happening is state can't prove it, yo. So that's what's going on. They released their expert after the last competency hearing. Super. So I guess they feel like they can't make that work. They feel like they can't make it work. They can't get an expert to testify to what they needed them to, right? They can't get someone to actually say she's crazy, or they don't think it's persuasive or whatever. It's like they kept their options open as long as they can. They're like, well, that's not going to work. Last week, they're trying to argue she couldn't assist with her own defense at trial. Of course they are. Of course you would. You try to keep you argue everything, particularly when you have nothing, right? Particularly when you have nothing. Of course you try to argue she can't assist with her own defense. Of course you try to keep it open. What do you think we're doing over here? Of course you do. Yeah, but it's like, well, all that has burned away. And so, throw and see what sticks. Yeah, that's kind of the ideal off. Yes, throw and see what sticks. Or more of the point, like keeping your options open. Like because also you never know. You never know. Every once in a while, you might get surprised. As a lawyer, I get surprised. I get surprised by things. It's like, I don't think something's going to work, or I don't think something's going to pan out. And every once in a while, you do get surprised. You get surprised often enough because you can't see everything. You'd like to think you're reasonably intelligent. You like to think that you can see everything, but you don't necessarily know everything, and you do get surprised. So you want to keep your options open as long as you can, because if this is the same reason, incidentally, this is exactly the same reason that lawyers do not want you to talk to the police, even if you are innocent, because we don't want you to commit to a version of the story. We want to keep things as open, as wide as possible for as long as possible, right? Every word you say, even if you're innocent, even if every word you say is true, everything you say narrows options. It narrows options because now you've said things, and that commits us to those things. Because if we want to try to change those things, we have a problem, because now you're on record saying something. So if we want to try to change those things, that's going to be a real problem, because we have an inconsistency now, right? Because the prosecution can always point to the thing that you said that's inconsistent. So you're committing us, and you're locking us in to a particular version of things. You are taking away options. Also, you are making what's potentially ambiguous non-ambiguous. You're reducing the fog of war. So you are taking a situation which is potentially ambiguous to the prosecution, or the other way, depending. You're taking a situation which is potentially ambiguous and making it non-ambiguous. Right? So rather than the prosecution having to guess or make intelligent predictions, they just know. And that's not ideal, right? So every word you say will hurt you. And it's the same for lawyers. Lawyers do not want to commit before they have to. Lawyers want to keep their options open as long as possible. Or lawyers want to make as much possible as long as possible. Because first of all, you never know, and why reduce an option before you have to? So of course they argued competence. Of course they argued she was unable to assist. They argued everything they could as long as they could, because why commit? Don't talk to the police. Don't talk to the police. Don't ever talk to the police. Even if you're innocent, perhaps especially if you're innocent, even if you're innocent, even if everything you say is true, it locks things down. It gives away something. It lets the other side know what a card is in your hand, right? It lets the other side know for sure what some of the cards are in your hand. And it's like, I'd like the ability to reveal those cards on my own time. Thank you very much. Please don't talk to the police and reveal them before I need to. Right? Please don't reveal them before I need to. Yeah, Olaf says the best thing is I'm sorry I'm not answering these questions. I'd like my lawyer to be present. Yeah, just simply say, remember the mantra. I want to remain silent. I want a lawyer. Don't complicate it. Just say that. I want to remain silent. I want a lawyer. Just that. Don't throw in other words. Don't over-explain. Don't explain at all. Just keep it simple. Keep it simple, unambiguous. I want a lawyer. I want to remain silent. Please do that.
Raise your right hand for placing under oath.
You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the matter now before the court, so help you God. Please have a seat and state your name for the record.
Kurt Brester, B-R-E-S-T-E-R.
Okay, then the witness is yours, Mr. Saunders.
Can you tell us how you're employed?
I'm a patrol sergeant with the City of Green Bay Police Department.
How long have you been employed in law enforcement?
Approximately 15 years.
Is the entirety of that time with the Green Bay Police
Melly,
Department?
you do have to identify yourself in
and how long
some
have you been with
states.
Green Bay?
11 years.
If you're under arrest in particular, of
You
course, in
mentioned
some
you're currently
states,
a
even
sergeant,
none
is
of
that right?
arrest.
Yes.
And
But
I guess
yeah,
what are some
your
of your duties
name,
as a sergeant
address.
as opposed to a patrol officer?
There's a
Yeah.
wide range of responsibilities for
That's
sergeant,
fair.
from administrative and scheduling
So,
work
noted.
To managing larger scales calls.
In some respects, do you act as sort of like a supervisor for a shift?
Correct, yes.
But you still work patrol?
Yes.
So is it the case that you still respond to incidents?
Yes, sir.
And were you a patrol sergeant in February of 2022?
Yes.
I want to ask you about February 23rd of that year. At about 3:24 a.m., did you respond at some point to a call on Stony Brook Lane?
Yes.
And what was the reason you responded to that residence?
We had received a call that a resident inside that house had found what she believed was a severed head inside of a bucket.
Were you the first officer who arrived?
I was not.
And which officers were those?
Officer Wanish and Officer Plonky arrived on scene prior to my arrival.
And when you got there, I guess what happened?
When I arrived, I made contact with Officer Wanish outside, and he explained to me what he had seen in the basement of this residence. And that's when I had entered the residence at that time.
Okay. And what did you do when you entered?
Well, I made contact with two individuals in the kitchen, and I explained to them, due to the severity of what was happening, we were going to do a protective sweep of the residence.
And a protective sweep, that's essentially looking for people that may have been in the house?
Correct, for the safety of us and others inside the house that we're speaking with.
Apart from the two individuals you encountered in the kitchen, was anyone else found in the residence?
There was a juvenile female in a bedroom on the first floor that we had contact with during our protective sweep, yes.
Okay. And I guess was she essentially woken up by officers?
Yes, and we had her go back into the kitchen by the other two adults.
And you indicated you didn't locate any other persons in the residence?
Correct.
At that point, Officer Wanish had previously told you about what he observed in the basement, is that right?
Yes.
During the course of your protective sweep, are you going through the entirety of the residence?
Yes.
Including the basement?
Yes, sir.
And when you're in the basement, did you observe any other parts of a human body?
I did not see any more parts of a human body, no.
Okay. And did you locate any areas of suspected blood or other related material?
Yes, there were red spots on the concrete floor that was consistent with blood. And also, I was advised by another officer that there was a piece of...
Objection hearsay, Your Honor?
Not necessarily.
Not offered for the truth of the matter, asserted, offered for what he did in response to the testimony.
A piece that would appear to be a bone fragment or
Yep.
fatty tissue on a drain on a stand-up shower in the basement.
And so you mentioned the areas of suspected blood were drops, is that right?
Correct.
Were there areas of large-scale pooling at all?
I did not see any, no.
Okay. So the drops that you observed, where were those located?
They were on the concrete floor, from what I recall, near the bucket.
Other areas of the basement, did you observe anything of that?
I really hope
nature
they
other than
bring
we talked about
the
earlier?
bucket into to evidence.
And what did you do after the sweep of the residence?
I again made contact with the adults upstairs and advised or asked if we could ultimately have consent to search the rest of the residence regarding to the crime. And we obtained verbal consent at that point.
So the initial responding officers, you're doing the protective sweep to look for people. Is there a larger scale, search of the house?
At that point, no.
Okay. Is that done by other members of your department?
Yes, later on in the incident, yes.
And did they ultimately arrive to the house as well?
Yes.
Thank you, Sergeant. I have nothing further.
Cross-examination?
Insightful.
Sergeant Brester, morning.
Morning.
You were on uniform patrol on February 23rd of 2022?
Yes, sir.
What was your shift?
I was a night shift sergeant at the time, so I started at 10 p.m. and worked until 6:30 a.m.
And you were on patrol in a different area in the Adam district, correct?
Yes, I was on a other call at the time.
Okay. And were you asked to come over to 829 Stony Brook Lane?
Yes, sir.
Who asked you to come over there?
Officer Wanish.
And was it regarding a suspicious situation over there on Stony Brook?
Yes.
Did you hear something from dispatch? Did they give you any details as to why you were supposed to go over there?
Yes, while I was on the initial call I was on, I did hear the Stony Brook call being dispatched out, and I did hear the nature of the call at that time, yes.
So then you left the Adams district, went over to Stony Brook, and where did you park?
From what I remember, I parked down the street, not far from the actual address of the incident.
And you walked up on the sidewalk?
Was the sidewalk into the driveway, correct?
Okay. And did you see Officer Plonky and Officer Wanish there then outside?
Yes.
And did they kind of brief you on what was going on?
Yes.
Was that outside?
I believe it was outside, yes.
And did you try to figure out a game plan as to what to do?
Yes.
Officer Wanish needed your assistance because this was kind of an unusual situation. Is that fair?
Correct.
And they wanted you as the supervisor, as the sergeant, to kind of verify what they were seeing, correct?
Yes.
And you had responded to this location at 829 Stony Brook Lane with your emergency lights and sirens on, correct?
Yes, sir.
It was a kind of a dire emergency situation, correct?
From what we're gathering at the point, yes.
So then you walked inside the residence?
Yes.
And who did you talk to first?
I talked with a male and a female at the kitchen table. I believe her name was Tara and the male was Stephen.
Okay. And did you have any concerns about what they were saying?
Not what they're saying. I don't know if they're in shock, but they were. He appeared to be drinking alcohol, but other than that, I think there was nothing out of the ordinary at the time.
You were able to converse with them?
Yes.
And then were you asked to go down in the basement to check it out?
Yes.
And did you?
Yes.
Did you have patrol gloves on?
I cannot recall.
Okay. Tell me what happened when you started your descent down into the basement.
Well, we went down the basement, and from what I remember, I asked where the bucket was, and we found the bucket at the bottom of the stairs off to the right. And there was what appeared to be some kind of toweling or cloth over the bucket, and we opened it up, and I confirmed that it appeared to be a human severed head.
Okay. And when you were down in the basement, were the other officers down there, Plonky and Wanish?
I believe at least one came down there with me. I thought maybe one stayed upstairs with the two adults.
Okay. Just to maintain?
Right.
Then did you decide to call for additional assistance?
We did at that time, yes.
Was it your call?
Yes.
Who else did you call to come over?
The other officers that were on scene, and then we had another sergeant was working as the shift commander at the time, and he began making phone calls to detective division and additional supervisors above my rank.
Okay. This residence at 829 Stony Brook, was it essentially 3 levels with a basement, a floor level, and then an upstairs?
I know for sure the basement and the main level. I can't remember about the upstairs. I believe there was an upstairs.
Did you go up there and check it out?
Not that I remember for sure the basement and the first floor.
Okay. You found no other people besides Tara, Stephen, and Ava, correct?
Correct.
You didn't see Taylor Schabusiness there, correct?
No, sir.
You didn't see any body parts there, correct?
Besides the severed head, that's it.
The downstairs, was it fair that it was sort of in disarray?
It was it appeared to be a live-in basement bedroom that somebody was living in. Yes.
How long did it take before Mr. Hendricks, Miss Pakinich, and Miss Wheelock were, taken out of the home and brought down to the police department?
I would say within the first 20 minutes, half hour I was there.
Okay. And was her bedroom on the ground level off the kitchen?
Whose bedroom?
Miss Wheelock, Ava Wheelock, was her bedroom like on the same floor as the kitchen?
Yes, between the kitchen and the living room.
Can you describe that ground level when you come in that side door?
Sure. So you come up the side door, you walk up a few stairs into the kitchen to your left, and then when you go through the kitchen, there's a hallway that runs, I guess, north and south, with the living room on your right and the bedroom in the right as well, down the hallway.
Is there a bathroom there on the first floor?
I believe there was.
Okay, and that's all there is to the first floor? It's,
Yes.
it's a very small house, correct?
Yeah, it's a smaller house.
Cape Cod style?
Yeah.
There's a separate garage there?
There was a detached garage, correct?
Did you see vehicles parked in the driveway on that particular evening?
Not that I could recall.
Okay. It's a while ago, correct?
Pardon?
This was a while ago,
Yes, sir.
correct? But it was dark outside and there was snow on the ground, correct?
Correct.
Kind of a cold night, correct?
Yes.
And then you asked Tara Pakinich if you could, search the residence, correct?
Yes.
She gave written consent, yes?
Once she got to the police department, she put pen to paper on the consent, yes.
When you were there, Sergeant, did your other officers, Wanish and Plonky, start putting out police crime scene tape?
They did outside, yes.
Okay. Did they follow all the procedures?
Yes.
Was there any way that the crime scene was disturbed in any way, shape, or form?
No.
At this property, there's like a driveway and then there's a separate detached garage, correct?
Correct.
And there's a backyard too?
Yes.
Did you ask Tara Pakinich if she had moved the bucket at all?
Not that I recall.
Did you ask Stephen Hendricks if he moved the bucket at all?
No.
Was it your understanding that Abel Wheelock did not even go downstairs?
Correct.
And is it fair to say that prior to having additional detectives and supervisors come to the scene from the detective division, that you didn't do any other searching of the residence?
Correct.
You and the other two officers just kind of stood by and maintained the scene?
Yes.
And then other detectives then came, Detective Biller, Detective Scanlon, Lieutenant Strauff, correct?
Yes.
And did you brief all of them on what you knew?
Pardon?
Did you brief all of them
Yes.
on what you knew?
Yeah.
Okay, nothing further. Thank you so much.
Redirect? No, thank you.
Thank you, you can step down.
Wow. Genius. Great. Thanks. Really insightful questions here.
Next witness, Mr. Saunders.
The state calls Stephen Hendricks.
I've been playing with the background images, backdrops of the screen, so let me know. This is like a Western themed, obviously,
You
that we
just want to
got
step
here.
up over here, and then
Trying
before you have
different
a seat, turn and
backdrops, see what
face
I
her
like.
and raise your right hand, she'll place you under oath.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the matter now before the court, so help you God? Please have a seat.
I think I'm going to switch up the
State your name for the
backdrop,
record.
from stream to
My
stream.
name is Stephen
I'm
Hendricks.
just playing with different things to see what I like.
Sir, if you could move up a little closer to the microphone so we can hear
Stephen
you.
Hendricks.
All right, and with that, Mr. Saunders, the witness is yours.
All right. Is it okay if I refer to you as Steve?
Yes.
Okay. Steve, how old are you?
50.
Okay. And where do you live?
Green Bay.
Okay. And does he still live on Stony Brook Lake?
Yes.
And that's in Green Bay. What area of Green Bay is that?
West Side.
All right. How long have you lived at Stony Brook Lane?
Almost 3 years.
And who do you live there with?
Tara.
And what's Tara's last name?
Packnett.
And are you in a relationship with Tara?
Yes.
All right. And how long has that been?
That's a good one. I like that
Almost
one.
3 years.
Okay. And that's, I guess, why you
I'll
live
keep
at
that
that
one
house
for the rest
now?
of the day.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone else live at that house?
Part-time Ava.
Okay. And
Her daughter.
who's Ava?
Tara's daughter.
And is she still a juvenile?
Yes.
Did Tara have any other children who, on occasion, would be at the house?
Yes.
And who is that?
Shad.
And Shad, was that her son?
Yes.
And did he live there full-time, part-time? I guess what was that arrangement?
It was partially when he wanted to eat, change, or do his laundry and whatnot.
And I guess looking in like February of 2022, by that point, was Shad an adult?
Yes.
So I want to ask you, Steve, about February 21st, 2022. It was a Monday. Do you recall the date I'm talking about?
Yes.
And on that date, or were you still living at the Stony Brook Lane house with Tara?
Yes.
On that date, did you have contact with Shad on that date?
Yes.
Okay. And I guess what happened on the 21st?
Well, 21st during the day. It depends what you're referring to. There's several different occasions.
At some point, did you and Tara go to dinner?
Yes.
And who did you go to dinner with?
With Shad.
And do you remember where you went?
Courthouse Bar and Grill.
Is that also in Green Bay?
Yes. East Side.
Do you remember what time you would have gone to dinner?
It was during the day. 3-ish maybe. I'm not positive, but.
Okay. And then were you there for a little bit of time?
Yes.
Do you remember what you did after dinner was done?
I believe we went home.
And what time would that have been, if you remember?
I'm not positive. It's still light out.
All right. And you went home. Do you mean the Stony Brook Lane house?
Yes.
And what happened when you got back to that house?
I don't recall, but I remember Shad leaving. I'm not sure.
Okay. Did you see who Shad left with?
Yes.
And who was that?
That was Taylor.
And did you know who Taylor was prior to that day?
I met her several times.
And I guess how did you meet her? I guess what was that?
Through Shad.
Would she come over to the house?
Well, there was only one time prior that she was at the house, but they weren't in the house.
So it was just sort of in passing you had contact with Taylor?
Yes. I pulled in a driveway and they were trying to break into the house.
Okay. So you had known Taylor prior to February 21st?
Just that one occasion.
Okay. And they left the Stony Brook house, is that right?
Yes.
Did you see how they left the house?
No, I did not.
Was Shad driving at that time?
I don't believe so. His truck was in the pound.
All right, so he didn't have a vehicle?
No, not at the time.
And I know it's a while ago. Do you remember what time they would have left the house?
Not exactly.
By that point, was it dark out or still light?
I believe it was still light out.
All right. And at any point that night, did Shad return to the home?
About 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, somewhere around there.
Excuse me.
So 1 or 2 in the morning, would that have been then into the morning of the 22nd?
Sure.
All right. And what happened when Shad got home in the morning?
He rang the doorbell 6-7 times in a row. That's his little key. Yes.
And did you open the door for him?
Yes.
What door did they enter through?
We only use the back door of our place because that's where the driveway is. So that's the only door we use.
So the door that sort of is next to the
It's on
driveway?
the side. It's on the side of the house, yes.
All right. Do you use the front door?
No, not really.
Okay. Is that kind of
It's
locked
kind of
usually?
blocked. It's kind of blocked off. We have junk in front of it.
So is it that, whenever people are entering or leaving
It's
that
always
home?
it's always the back side door.
Okay. And so Shad kind of rings the doorbell 6-7 times, you said, is that right?
Yeah.
Was anyone with him?
Yes.
Who?
Taylor.
And did you see how they had arrived at the home?
No, I did not. I just opened the door.
And what happened when you opened the door for them?
They came in and went right downstairs.
In that time, in that 1 or 2 a.m. on the 22nd there, did you notice anything out of the ordinary behavior-wise with either Shad or Taylor?
No.
Had you previously had contact with Taylor, right?
Yes.
Anything different from that time versus the prior times you met with her?
No.
When she came over earlier in the day to pick up Shad, did you have contact with Taylor then?
Yes, she came in the house.
Sort of asked the same questions. Was there any kind of odd behaviors that you were observing?
No.
So then when Taylor and Shad then go into the basement, how do you get to the basement from that door, that storm door?
Straight down the steps.
So it's
Right by the door. The door continues to go down. If you take a left right at the top, you'll go into the kitchen. But if you go straight down, it goes to the basement.
so they go right down there. What do you do?
I like that one, I think.
I'm back to bed.
Yeah, I think
So I
I
want
like
to ask
this
a few
one.
questions then about
Okay.
the layout of the home.
Okay.
So the area that you're talking about, the door, is that on the main level?
Be right back, guys.
Yes.
Are there any bedrooms on that level of the home?
Yes.
And who is using those bedrooms?
One of them is just a empty room, an empty bed that Shad keeps his stuff in, and then Ava's room.
Okay.
That's on the main level.
Your room and Tara's room, I should ask first, do you share a room?
Yes, it's
And
on the
where is-
second floor.
Okay, that's on the second floor. Are
Yes.
there any other rooms on the second floor of the home?
No, it's just a long hall, closet space, and then a bedroom.
So after they go to the basement that morning, you go back up to the to your room?
Second floor, yes.
All right. And do you go back to sleep?
I'm not sure. Pretty sure.
Okay. After that point, do you have any other contact with Shad?
No, it was the last time I seen him.
And that was 1 or 2 a.m. on the 22nd?
Yes.
What about Taylor? Had you had any contact with Taylor after that point?
At one point, I was in the kitchen, and she had come upstairs, and I borrowed her a pair of reading glasses.
Do you remember when that was?
It was about 9:30 a.m.
Is it the same day that you're talking about?
Yes.
Would that be the 22nd?
The 22nd, yes.
So you're in the kitchen about 9:30 in the morning, and Taylor comes in the kitchen?
Yeah,
And I guess the kitchen, is that right off of those stairs?
it's right off the stairs, yes.
And I guess what happens when Taylor comes into the kitchen there?
Nothing. She asked if I had a pair of glasses. I had a pair. I wear readers, and I buy them by the case because I lose everything.
And then I guess, did she take those glasses?
Yeah,
Okay, I guess were they like, what kind of glasses were
they're
they?
just black glasses, black framed readers. They're just cheaters.
But like a black, is it like a thicker frame?
No, not really.
But just like more than a wire frame?
Yeah, looks just they're black plastic, but they're not like super thick.
And during that time you had contact with Taylor there, did you notice anything out of the ordinary?
No,
Any sort of odd behaviors or anything like that?
not that I was aware of.
So then the rest of that day, the 22nd there, what are you doing throughout that day?
Arguing with Tara.
Okay. So you had a little bit of an argument throughout the day?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay. Did you leave the home at any point?
Yes, I did.
And I guess at any point during that day, do you go into the basement?
No.
All right. And you left the residence. How long after that 9:30 a.m. time do you think you left the home?
It wasn't far after that, about 40 minutes after that, maybe.
And then how long were you gone for?
About 6 hours.
So you got back to the home sometime in the late afternoon?
Probably, yeah. That's it.
And when you got home, I guess, what is that evening like?
I really couldn't say. I was out drinking, and I came home and passed out.
Okay. Anything, out of the ordinary that you remember
Well, that's
seeing?
Wisconsin for you.
Still aren't going in the basement at any point?
No.
Couldn't really say. I was drunk and passed out. Good. This
And
is
then I want to ask about
this is the most Wisconsin
the
case I've ever
following,
heard of
I
in
guess,
my
morning,
life.
Time. Do you remember anything happening of notes in that early morning of the 23rd?
Except for when I was
You know, I
woken up,
just,
you mean? Other than that?
Yeah, so were you woken up on
Doing
that
my
time?
I was
thing,
woken
going
up,
out,
yes.
And can you tell me what
coming
happened
back,
with that?
drunk, passed out,
Sure,
found a
it
little
woke me
head in
up.
the Found a little head in the
said she
basement.
thinks
Just
she
another day that
found
ends in
Shad-
Y,
her son's-
man.
That's how she put it. I found my son's head in a bucket.
Okay.
So
Ah!
I'm dumbfounded. Didn't believe her. Thought she was having a mental issue or something.
Sure. So, do you remember what time this would have been?
Had to be about between 2 and 3 in the morning.
Thank you, Allie, for becoming a member. Thank you for hitting that beautiful join button.
And you said you were woken up. Were you sleeping in that room up in the second floor?
Yes.
And Tara had woken you up?
Yes, after she heard her door slam.
Is that something you heard, or that's information Tara's telling
I
you?
don't recall if I heard it, but I know that I woke up a little bit when she got up.
And at some point she comes back and tells you
Yes.
some information?
Yes.
What do you do then?
I go downstairs and see what the hell she's talking about, and I can't see anything, so we go back upstairs and contemplate what the heck to do.
So I guess what do you do specifically when you go downstairs?
I went to the basement and observed a bucket that she said, but I don't know, my mind blocked it out. About all I seen was like hair, like an animal, or I didn't know what the heck.
The bucket that you remember seeing, is that typically located right next to the stairs there?
No, it just happened to be there that day.
So after you see that stuff in the basement, contemplate what to do, I think you said?
Yeah, we go back up to the second floor bedroom, and I called the police station, and it took me a while to get through. I didn't call 911 because I wasn't sure what was going on yet at this point.
If, you know, it's a ways away, but if you can remember, from when you kind of remember getting woke up when Tara got up to the time you call the police, are you able to approximate how long a time we're talking about?
Within 30 minutes. I can't really say exactly, but it was within 30 minutes. I mean, she woke me up, went downstairs, went back upstairs, and then it took me about 10 minutes to get through to because I didn't call 911, I called the police department.
You got through to a dispatcher at some point?
Yes.
This is very interesting testimony, guys. It's just
after
it's so matter of fact.
Did officers arrive at your home?
So,
Yes, 2 uniformed officers.
Did you speak with them about sort of what you observed?
Yeah.
And did you go down to the police department then and speak further with officers?
Well, they had us put our phones on the table and then waited for, I think they escorted us to the Green Bay Police Department at that time.
Thank you, Steve. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Cross-examination, Mr. Freilich.
Mr. Hendricks, good morning.
Good morning.
Shad Thyrion is the son of your girlfriend, Tara Pakinich, correct?
Yes.
He's not your son, right?
Right.
And he wasn't living at the 829 Stony Brook Lane property in February of 2022, was he?
No.
He lived with his father, Michael Thyrion, correct?
Correct.
He would come over to the residence on Stony Brook to eat, take a shower, do laundry, things like that?
Sure.
And to come and visit you and Tara, his mom?
Well, more Tara.
Okay. All right. But you knew him, right?
Yes.
You had only met Taylor Schabusiness one time before?
Prior to that, yes.
Okay. And that was a brief meeting, is that correct?
Yes.
And sir, was it your understanding that Taylor Schabusiness went to high school and maybe middle school with Shad Thyrion?
That was my understanding.
And that they went to high school at Bayport together, correct?
I understood that, yeah.
The last time you saw Shad Thyrion was when?
About 2 o'clock in the morning on Monday night, going into Tuesday.
February 21st of 2022?
22nd, it was one of them.
Okay. On that Monday?
I believe so, Monday.
And
Monday.
was it your testimony that you went to the courthouse?
Yeah, I don't
barn grill
object
in
to the
Green Bay
prosecution not
with,
really
your girlfriend,
laying
Tara
into
Pakinich,
the
and then with Shad
to the
Thyrion?
gore of it all. I
You
don't
had some
object
dinner
to
there,
that.
correct?
I just find his demeanor
Yes,
very interesting.
Appetizers.
Okay.
Like, you
Some
know,
drinks.
he would be.
Yep.
And then
He's like almost
you came back home
non-bothered
to
by it.
Stoneybrook?
It's very.
Yes.
I
And
don't
then
know. It's very something.
at some point, did Shad leave the residence then?
Yes.
Do you know what time?
Not exactly. It's
And-
still light out.
Okay. Was it your understanding
Nothing
that
bothers this man
Shad was
at
picked
all.
up by someone?
ever.
Yes.
Who was that?
Taylor.
Okay. So she picked him up and they left together?
Yes.
Was anybody else with him?
Not that I know of, no.
Okay. And then you didn't see him again?
Not till late that night.
On February 22nd of
Yeah,
2022?
I think that's what it would be, 22nd by then, because it was after midnight. Yeah.
Okay. So you heard some pounding on
Thank
the
you,
side
Aussie,
door?
for the $5
No,
Australian
I heard the
dollars.
doorbell
Thanks,
ring
Kurt and
6
Chat, for the
times.
much needed opening statement.
That's
giggles.
kind of his,
Appreciate it, Aussie. Thank you for the super
clue
chat.
to
Thank you for
be
everyone
let
who
in,
supports the
correct? Yeah.
channel. It's always appreciated.
so then you
and
came
loved.
down, you opened the door?
Yes.
And is it your testimony that Taylor Schabusiness and Shad Thyrion then went right down the basement?
Yes.
And you were tired, so you went back upstairs to bed, right?
I went upstairs, yes.
You remember when the police came to your house on February 23rd of 2022, correct?
Yes.
You were waiting for them, correct?
Yes.
You're the one that actually called 911?
Yeah, I didn't call 911, I called the police department.
Okay, you called the Green Bay Police Department non-emergency line?
Non-emergency line, yes.
Okay. And then you asked to have someone come over?
Yep.
And then do you recall meeting with an officer or officers at the door?
Yes, 2 officers.
And that's at that side door, correct?
Correct.
And the side door to the house is like right by the driveway, correct?
Correct.
Now, on this particular night, there were vehicles in the driveway, correct?
Correct.
Whose vehicles were they, sir?
Tara's and mine.
Okay. What kind of car do you have?
I have a Forester.
Okay. And Tara?
She has a Volkswagen.
Okay. And they were parked like
He is a Forester.
off the side
He's a
door
Subaru
in the
guy.
driveway?
Yes, in the driveway, yeah.
Any other
Well, I mean,
vehicles
I
in
guess
the
that makes
driveway?
sense for the snow.
No.
Subaru
Not that
does
I'm aware
have a
of.
great reputation
Okay.
for its all-wheel drive system. So
And
okay,
then
fair
you
enough.
talked to the officers, correct?
Yes.
And you told them what you knew, or is that correct?
Yes, and then they went down and took a look themselves.
Okay. They went down in the basement?
Yep.
And where did you go?
I sat at the table where they told us not to move.
Okay. And you followed directions, correct?
Yes.
And where was Tara Pakinich? Was she
She's
sitting
right
at the
next
table?
to me.
Okay.
Yes.
And when did Ava Wheelock get up?
I didn't even know she was there at the time. And right around the time they came over, I didn't realize she was even there yet.
Okay. Did she come and sit at the kitchen table as well?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have issues with your vision?
A little bit.
If you don't have glasses on, do you have a hard time seeing?
Yes.
Okay. Glasses help, right?
Yeah, for reading, yes.
Okay, sure. If you don't have the glasses on, is it difficult to see real far?
No.
Okay. Are you nearsighted or farsighted?
I'm just.
Thank you,
getting old.
Kathy, for your super chat for earlier. Yeah, we all know about the pleas
as
that
far
are
as,
entered. It just
like,
doesn't
as far
seem
as
like
you
that's
can
the
see,
direction that things are heading.
It
Can you give me like a
just
distance?
or at least they didn't tee it
Other
up
than
that
I can see
way.
you just
So
fine.
she might have.
Okay.
She might have
And
pled
on this
not guilty by
particular
reason
night,
of insanity, but
February
it doesn't feel
23rd
like
of
that's the
2022
direction
when you
things are
went down
heading.
the
But thank you
stairs
very
there,
much for your
you
super
didn't have
chat
any
for earlier.
cheaters or glasses, right?
No.
Or
Everything's
maybe
kind
it
of
is.
blurry.
Maybe they'll surprise us. They just didn't tee that
And you
very
thought
well up
that
in their
maybe
opening, if that's where they're going.
Tara Pakinich was seeing things, is that correct?
Having mental issues, I don't know if she was hallucinating or anything like that. It's just, I got woke up out of dead sleep and I'm tripping out now.
You were pretty stressed out, fair?
Well, yeah. She wakes me up crying, telling me she found her son's head in a bucket. Yeah, a little disturbing.
When you were, when she was trying to wake you up, were you in a dead sleep?
Not really. I mean, I was sleeping, but I was aware that I needed to get up.
And is it your testimony that when you looked in the bucket, you couldn't tell what it was, correct?
Correct.
And after you and
Thank you much for your
Tara
support,
Pakinich
for
talked,
tuning into this
did
stream.
you talk in the kitchen?
Appreciate it. Thank you for the 500 of you who are here. Just a
You know,
kind
after you
reminder
went
to
to the-
please
to
hit
the
that like
basement,
button.
and you came
Does
back
help
up
the
and
channel
did you talk
grow.
with her in the kitchen?
We went back up to the bedroom.
And also hit the
That's where my
join
phone
button for
was.
those of you who want to
Okay.
help support the
And then
channel.
you kinda
It's only
contemplated
99
on
cents a
what to
month
Yeah.
to
You didn't know
become
if
a
you
member of
should
this
call 911
channel.
or not?
I
It
didn't
is
know whether
literally
to
the
call
least
911
YouTube will
or
let
so
me
I
charge.
just called the police department because I didn't want them screaming in sirens and all that crap.
Okay, all right. How long after you made that call did it take for the police officers to get there?
It was late at night, probably 10 minutes, not even.
Okay. Did anybody move the bucket at all?
No.
Did you move the bucket?
Nope.
Okay, nothing further. Thank you.
Wow. Insightful. The insightfulness of the cross-examination is just legendary.
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Okay, you can step down, sir. Thank you.
Then I'd ask the witness be excused from any subpoena and sequestration order, Your Honor.
Any objection?
No objection.
All right, he's released from the sequestration order. Your next witness then?
State calls Tara Pakinich.
Thank you, Ali B, for gifting 10 gift memberships. Thank you very much for hitting that join button. Thank you for showing some love and support to the channel. We really do appreciate everyone who helps to support the channel. It makes a
And before
huge
you have a
difference.
seat, turn and face her and raise your right hand. She'll place you under oath.
You know, the more that you guys support me, the more that this channel is able to do. I'd love to, you know, be able to go places and do things and report on things. Like attend the Trump trial in person, maybe.
The witness is yours, Mr. Stone.
You know, so the more you guys support me, the more I'm able to do things like that. Is this the mom? It might be. What happened? Well, there was a noise downstairs that woke me up. What'd you do? I went to look and see if anyone was in the house. Where'd you go? I went in the basement. What'd you see? I saw a bucket. What'd you see in the bucket? My son's head.
The jury room, and we'll be back within 5 minutes or so. All rise for the jury.
All right. So I don't know what we're doing now. Having a little caucus about something, some sort of evidentiary issue. We're gonna have a little fight about something for the jury to be excluded about whatever. Yeah, this is surprisingly dry. That's the thing, Becky. You were correct. This is surprisingly dry for a murder trial with a severed head and all the rest of it. It's like,
I need to clarify with the media in the back that this is a victim and she's not to be live streamed. She's not to be videoed.
okay.
My understanding is that that's what's happening right now, so we need to stop it, okay?
All right, fair enough.
Okay. Okay, it's been stopped. We're ready to have him back.
Just the image of her, or are you cutting out all the audio too? Do you understand the order? Are you sure that you understand the order? Are we just gonna, is it, what exactly is the order here? To not show her, not stream it? What exactly is the order? Because it sounds like we're about to have oral testimony, but without her on camera. Is that the order? Are you sure?
Everybody can have a seat.
Law and crime, are you about to wreck yourself? Or are they going to mute it? Okay. Maybe we're muting it completely. All right. Well, I can tell you what the testimony is without hearing it, because we have enough clues already. So I can just give you the entire testimony myself. Hello, how are you doing, ma'am? I'm doing fine. Are we doing audio? I was about to do the entire testimony myself.
Then we're good to go, Mr. Saunders. The witness is yours.
Okay. I guess we're doing audio.
Sir, if you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
49
All right. And
What do you do in law and crime?
on Stony Brook Landing.
Okay, so do you know what the order is or not? Someone is not sure what the order is. Okay, no problem. All right, I guess we're not doing audio after all. No problem. I will do the testimony for you. It's fine, because I know exactly what they're going to ask, and I know exactly what the answers are going to be, because it's obvious. So here's the entire testimony. How are you doing, ma'am? I'm doing fine. How are you? Good. Can you tell us where you live? Insert address here. Okay. So on the day of whatever, what did you do? The day of the day ramping up to the thing, what'd you do? Well, I saw my son. He came over to, because he needed to. He likes to come over to visit sometimes, and he likes to visit us, and I do his laundry, and I like to cook for him and take care of him and stuff like that. And I appreciate that he sits by. I was like, okay. Did you ever meet Miss Schabusiness? Yes. Well, how'd you meet her? I met her through my son. What was the nature of their relationship? Well, they were going out together. They were seeing each other, and they had a relationship. And at some point, I'm not 100% sure exactly what was going on there, but it's just she was someone we knew. And what did you observe in their relationship? Well, it was not good at times, and not they didn't do well with each other, and seemed like things were not going along really well at times. And my son didn't really talk to me very much about it, but it seemed like things were a little bit problematic. Okay, so that day when he came over, what'd you guys do? Well, he came over to the house at first, and I made sure to take care of him, and took care of his laundry and stuff like that, and made sure to take care of him. Okay, and what'd you guys do later that day? We went out to eat. And where'd you guys go? We went to the courthouse bar and grill. About what time was that? I can't remember exactly what time it was, but it was sometime in the early afternoon. Was it light out? I don't remember exactly what time it was, but we went out to have some meal together. And how was your meal? It was fine. We had a good time, and it was fine. Okay. So what did you guys do when you got back? Well, my husband went out to do whatever he does, or my boyfriend, or whatever he is to her, because I'm a little vague on that detail, but whatever. He went out to get drunk or whatever. And what'd you do? And, it's just milling around the house, just kind of doing chores, and just doing the things that you normally do, and just hanging out and just taking care of things. How was your son? He seemed fine. But then he decided to go out himself. and didn't really, just doing his thing in his own right. So I didn't really think very much about it. Just kind of doing whatever. All right. And so what did you do then? Well, just kind of finished off the evening, and then I went upstairs, and I went to bed. Okay. All right. So what changed? Did something wake you out of bed? Yes. Okay. What was that? Well, I heard a noise from downstairs. What was the noise you heard? It sounded like someone was coming in to the door. And do you remember what time that was? No, I don't remember exactly what time it was. I had been asleep for a while, but not very long. So it was something like after midnight, but I don't remember. It was dark outside. Okay. So what did you do when you got up? Well, I went downstairs to see if, there was someone in my house. Because you heard the noise? Yeah, that's right. I heard the noise, and I thought that someone had entered the house, and I wanted to go check to see if that was true. All right. So what'd you do? Well, I went downstairs. Okay. And then what did you see? Well, I turned on a light to look in the kitchen area, and there was no one there. Did you notice anything strange about the door? Uh, the door had been, it looked like it had been recently opened. Okay. So what did you check to see if the door was locked? I did. Was the door locked? No, it wasn't locked. Did you find that strange? I did find it strange. Okay. So what did you do then? Well, I went downstairs. And why did you go downstairs? I was continuing to look see if anyone was in the house. All right. So when you went downstairs, what did you see? Well, I noticed that there was a bucket by the stairs. What made you notice it? I didn't notice it at first. I was just kind of looking all around and looking for anyone who was there, and I just noticed this thing that was sort of out of place. I'm not really sure why I noticed it. Maybe it was the towel that was on top of it just seemed like it was in the wrong place. So, I went to see what that was about. All right, so what'd you do? Well, I lifted the towel. Okay, and then what did you observe? I observed I observed my son's head in the bucket. Okay. What did you see exactly? I saw hair, and I saw his face, and I saw, I knew right away it was my son, and I freaked out completely. Okay, so what did you do? All right, so at that point, I went up. At that point, I woke my husband up, or my husband was waking up. He had woken up from the noise of me getting up and searching around. And I told my husband that or boyfriend or whatever. I told my boyfriend that I had found my son's head in the bucket. Okay. And how did he react? He seemed like he was in disbelief, but he contacted the police, and he reported that, and that this was true. All right. And what did you do? Well, I just sat down because I didn't know what to do, and I just kind of waited for the police to come. All right. So did the police eventually come? Yes. What happened when the police arrived? Well, they came to the side door, and they opened up the side door, and I let them in, and they came in. And then what happened? Well, I told them about how I had found my son's head in a bucket downstairs, and I told them what the bucket looked like and where the bucket was. What did they do? They went downstairs into the basement, and they started to look around. Did they find the bucket? Yeah, I think they did. I think they did. I was upstairs, though. I didn't really personally see it. I was still upstairs, just kind of in disbelief about the whole thing. How long were the police downstairs? Well, they weren't downstairs very long, maybe a couple minutes. And then they came back upstairs. All right. So what did they do when they came back upstairs? Well, they told me that they were going to call for additional officers, and then they also asked who else was in the house. What'd you tell them? I told them about my daughter who was in the first floor. Okay, what'd you do? Well, the police then woke her up to get her into the kitchen to make sure everyone was in the same place. What did the officers do at that point? Well, one of the officers stayed by to talk to my daughter and start to ask her questions, and one of the other officers went in the house. Did he have, what was he doing? He had his pistol out. He was looking in the house. He said he seemed to be looking for other things, or I'm not quite exactly sure what he was doing, but he seemed to be looking around and opening doors. I could hear doors opening in various parts of the house. I could hear him walking around in various parts of the house. It seemed to me that he was looking around. Okay, so what happened next? Well, the officers continued looking around, and then more officers came. All right, what other officers showed up? Well, quite a few other officers showed up, including someone from the medical examiner's office to examine the head that was found in the bucket. How long were the police there? The police were there for a couple hours. I'm not sure exactly how long. It was early in the morning, and I wasn't really quite awake, and I was in shock. I don't really remember exactly what happened. Okay. All right. So, was Miss Schabusiness ever in your house? No, Miss Schabusiness never was in my house, but I had met her. Okay, you had met her when? She had come by the house with my son, and I had met her before, and also she had tried to break into my house once before. Did she have a key to the house? I'm not sure if she did or not. I think my son might have given her a key. I didn't give her a key, but he might have given her a key. I don't know. He was a very trusting guy, and he might have given her a key so that she could visit him or things. Okay. And what else was going out? Okay. So so that's vaguely what the testimony would be. Something along those lines. As I sort of extrapolate based on other pieces of testimony and try to put together what her testimony would look like. So, fill in some additional details about things she knew from her business and fill in additional details about stuff. So, yeah. So hopefully that entertained you as we were trying to fill in the gaps. Yeah, Miss Schabusiness looks guilty as shit, I have to say. Yeah, the improv acting is definitely helping as we try to play both sides of the scene and try to work on various things. I'm not sure, strictly speaking, that the witness requested it or not. I don't know, but apparently it's a victim's right issue. Like, it's one of those laws that one of the states has passed. So, thank you, Foster, for saying it was awesome. I tried. I tried to try to anticipate what her testimony would look like based on what we know. Go back and watch the judge instructions to the jury. I would, but the last time I tried to play with the feed, it crashed my entire browser. So I think we'll pass. So yeah, it's one of those laws that various states have passed with like witness rights things or victims rights things. So I mean, the jury can hear it. Her testimony is obviously still in the record, but she has the right to not have it broadcast, even though we have seen her face and heard her voice. So, but she has the right to not have a broadcast apparently. So, okay, I guess. Yeah. This is the guilt phase. Next phase will be mental defect. Well, that doesn't sound quite right. but maybe there is some aspect to this law. For those of you who appreciate my channel, Rose just recently gave you the links. Just a kind reminder, of course, that YouTube does take 30%, as the bots tell you about from time to time. PayPal, Venmo, Stripe. There are 2 phases. Well, there might be. So they find guilt and then they work on mental issues. That seems odd, but okay. Wisconsin does it in a weird order. Fine. Wisconsin has some sort of weird thing. That's fine. Oh, yeah, no, I didn't think you were. Yeehaw! Yeah, so I don't really understand how they're doing it in Wisconsin with that order. It doesn't quite make sense, but okay. So yeah, I don't know quite how they're doing. They're doing guilt and then they're going to do mental incompetence on the back end. It seems like a very, very strange way of doing it, but okay. Wisconsin does it weird. What can you say? Every state has their own little idiosyncratic elements. Which one thing I noted particularly in this is that the lawyers ask questions while sitting down, which also used to be true in Philadelphia. I don't know if it still is, where the lawyers ask questions sitting down. They don't get up to ask questions. So I think that's the thing in the Northeast.
But you didn't see anyone in the basement?
I did not.
And when you heard the door slammed...
Okay, and then we lost audio again. That was exciting. Catching up on super chats and gift memberships. Iowa Dog Squad Mama is a member for 6 months. Thank you very much. Tony P gifted 10 gift memberships, and then he gifted an additional 5 memberships. Thank you, Tony P. Michael Alameda is a member for 28 months. Very nice, Michael. We appreciate everyone. Just 99 cents to become a member of the channel. Very, very inexpensive to join the channel. And if you do, it helps me, like, you know, eat and do things, right? So, I mean, if all 500 of you joined at 99 cents a month, that's $500, which of course, after the 80% or after the cut from YouTube is, well, I have to do math in my head now. That would be minus 90. So it'd be like $400. Hey, Nate the Lawyer is about to join here. Hey, Nate the Lawyer, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, Kirk? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can't see you, but we can hear you.
Yeah, I'm got to fix up this.
I've already done the entire testimony from the witness because we're not able to hear this witness. So I already done the entire improving of the thing. I was just going to read a few super chats. Jules Buddha gifted 20 gift memberships. Thank you very much. Dukanat became a member for 99 cents. Thank you for hitting that beautiful, beautiful join button. Tao Mayo, so this is a train wreck already, but I want to watch all the more. I'm disappointed I'm leaving for Japan on Saturday. Hopefully this one has the majority of the action in 5 days. This has been a very interesting and very dry trial so far. Nick S gave 20 SGD, says, I usually come for critical and rational thinking, but I'm enjoying the funny commentary, making me laugh a lot. See, the improv classes help. They help with giving a little bit of things and being able to do fun things and stuff. So the improv classes are helping. Red Rogue, and that was also Nick S's first super chat ever. So thank you, Nick S, for your first super chat ever, for giving it for this channel. That's very nice. Red Rogue gifted 5 gift memberships. Jeremiah Maddox, $5. Kathy, $5. This is a 2-phase trial with 2 pleas, not guilty. Faces the version of mental deficiency.
Thank you. You are Tara Pakinik?
I am.
You've been involved in a relationship.
Oh my God,
with
are we
Stephen
doing
Hendricks
this?
for how long?
Oh no.
Approximately 3 years.
And you lived together at Brook Lane in Green Bay?
We do.
That's over by Fireman's Park area, right?
Yes.
Law
With
and
regards
crime,
to
what are you
Stephen,
doing? No.
Does he wear cheater glasses?
He does.
Does he sometimes have issues with missing his glasses or losing his glasses?
He does.
All right, everyone, let's collectively face palm it.
Okay. Does he have difficulty seeing if he doesn't have his
What's
glasses?
happening?
There's some sort of victims' rights statute in play that allows her to not
With
not
regards
allow
to this
her
case,
voice
you talked
or
to
video to be broadcast
police
of her
detectives,
testimony.
correct?
So they muted her during
Correct.
direct, and now they unmuted her during cross,
Who's here, correct?
Yes.
which can't possibly be
Everything
how
that
this
you know about
works.
this situation, correct?
Yes.
So basically, they're violating the court's
With
order.
regards to this home, you own the home?
They may not
I
even.
do.
And is it, it's got a basement, a ground level, and then an upstairs, correct?
But this
Yes.
this seems
Would it
like
be
it's
fair to say
a
that
pretty
it's kinda like
simple
3
trial,
levels?
right?
So to speak?
So to speak.
Yeah, I just would like it very much that they would
Uh,
not violate court
Your
orders very much.
bedroom and Stephen's bedroom is upstairs, correct?
Yes.
Is there a bathroom up there?
No.
On the ground level?
The ground level there is
Okay, and there's also is there a kitchen there?
kitchen, living room.
What do you
and
think,
2
Callie?
bedrooms.
I think
And
law and
you have
crime
a daughter, Ava
or
Wheelock,
court TV
correct?
or whoever it
Correct.
is that's
And this
actually
was all going
broadcasting
on,
this feed
she was 16,
is currently violating a court's
Yes.
order.
Is she still 16?
No.
I think they're violating
17
the
now?
order, and I think
Yes.
it's strongly possible that we will
She
no
was
longer
sleeping
be
in the residence when the
trial
police came on
because they
February
can't
23rd of
understand basic court
2022,
orders.
correct?
I'm a big fish.
Correct.
You and Mr. Hendricks have vehicles, correct?
Oh, that's sad.
Yes.
What kind of vehicle do you have, ma'am?
I have a Volkswagen.
Is it an SUV?
This is probably why they don't want you to see
No,
it.
it's a
She has a
Volkswagen
Volkswagen.
Jetta?
Blah, blah, blah.
And what kind of vehicle
This
does
is
Mr.
horrible.
Hendricks have?
A Subaru Forester.
And do you typically park them in the driveway?
Yes.
At your house, if you're standing in the street looking at your house, there's kind of a long driveway and then there's a garage that's detached, is that correct?
Yes.
Then there's the house, your house is kind of like a Cape Cod style, correct?
Yes.
And then you have a backyard, is that fair?
We do have a backyard.
On February 23rd of 2022, when the Green Bay police officers came there to talk to you, is it fair to say that the only 2 vehicles that were in the driveway were the Subaru Forester belonging to Stephen and the VW Jetta belonging to you?
No.
What
When
other
I
vehi-
watched the video earlier, Ava's Toyota RAV4 was in the driveway.
Okay, she has her own car?
She does.
Okay.
She has her own car.
So there's basically 3 vehicles, correct?
Correct.
And they're all kind of parked in line on that driveway?
Right.
Okay. Did you see any gold minivan parked in your driveway on February 23rd of 2022?
No.
Okay. When the front door to your house, you don't really use that, correct?
Correct.
The main entrance is the side door off the driveway?
Correct.
Okay. Do you have curtains in the front of your house?
I do.
Okay. And on the front door as well?
I do.
With regards to the bucket that was in the basement, you went down to the basement to bring the cat down there?
Earlier in the evening, yes.
Okay. And then you went back down there because you heard the door slam?
Correct. To see if Shad was still home.
Okay.
If he was not, to turn off the lights and
Because the
lock
light,
the door.
yeah, the lights were left on in the basement, right?
Correct.
And you didn't see anybody downstairs, correct? When you went down there? Okay.
No, I did not.
And as you were going up the stairs, then you saw this bucket?
Right.
Okay. And was there anything over the bucket?
What?
Was there anything over the bucket?
There was a towel over the bucket.
Was it like a beach towel or something?
It was just a regular towel you would shower with.
Okay. And were you concerned that your son or his friends were peeing in that bucket?
It was a possibility. I didn't know why the bucket was there.
Okay.
Normally isn't there.
And-
So, and it was covered.
Okay. And you kind of came upon the bucket, happenstance kind of, right?
Right.
So then you took the towel off?
I did.
And how long did you look in the bucket?
See, that
Seconds?
I don't know. Seconds, probably.
Okay. Did you put the towel back then?
And I put the towel back, yes.
Then what did you do? Did you go up the steps?
Yes.
And then did you go all the way up to your bedroom to tell Stephen Hendricks, your boyfriend?
I did.
Okay. And then he woke up?
Correct.
And then did you ask him to come downstairs and check this out?
Yes.
And he was woken out of a dead sleep, is that correct?
Correct.
And we're talking about the time frame here is February 23rd of 2022, that Wednesday, right?
It was after midnight, so it would have been the 23rd.
Okay. And so then did you walk with Mr. Hendricks all the way down into the basement again?
I did.
Okay. And then what did you see Mr. Hendricks do?
I asked him to look in the bucket to verify. He moved the towel up to look in the bucket, but he was unsure of what he was seeing.
Okay. So then did the both of you then go back upstairs?
We did.
And did you go all the way up to your bedroom again?
Yes. That is where our phones were located.
Is that where you talked and you decided what to do?
Right.
Is it fair to say that you didn't know if you should call the police department non-emergency line or if you should call 911? Is that fair?
Right.
So you talked for a while?
Briefly.
How long do you think?
A minute and a half. I don't.
Could it have been 10 minutes or not?
No, I don't think it would take that long to make that decision.
Okay. But both of you were confused and upset.
Well, we had a call. Yeah, it was probably
$20 from
shot.
Crispy Cozy. Just read up on this. Don't know anything about it. Frolics argued she should have been Mirandized
then
again before DNA test.
your
Is it standard
boyfriend,
operating
Stephen Hendricks, made the
procedure
call
to
to
Mirandize
911
someone more
at
than
some
once?
point?
Nope.
To the non-emergency.
Say it again.
number,
What was
yes.
that question?
Whether you Mirandize someone more than
and
once?
then you waited for the police
it
officers
all
to arrive, is that
depends.
right?
Even though technically you only have to do it one time, but we generally
You let
do
him,
it.
and then you let him in the side door, correct?
We generally do it
Correct.
The
multiple
officers
times.
came in and had you sit at the table in
Like,
the kitchen?
because if the
Yes.
cops, whenever
Did you look in the
cop
bucket only one
questions
time?
you, then if the DA
I believe I
questions you,
looked
they
in the bucket
Mirandize
again
you
when
again.
Steve
Because when I
looked in
was,
the bucket.
it would happen generally. So
Was he in front of you?
would generally get two. If you waive it, if you don't waive it, you'll just only happen just one
Next
time.
to me.
Okay,
I don't remember that detail.
sure. Now, in February of 2022, your son, Shad Thyrion, was living with his father, Michael Thyrion,
Correct.
and your son would come to your house
Yeah, a
to eat
DNA
sometimes, correct?
test wouldn't have to be Mirandized because
To
it's
eat,
not
hang out
testimonial.
with his sister.
No.
Me.
So there'd be no
Do
reason
some
to read
laundry.
Miranda before a DNA test.
What?
Do some laundry, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And would you have to tell him to take a shower?
I don't know that I had to tell him, but he'd shower there.
Were you worried that he didn't always take care of himself?
What?
Yes.
Really? My son didn't always take care of himself. What are you trying to imply? Well, I mean, he obviously didn't take care of himself. He wound up with
When
Taylor
you heard the
Schabusiness.
storm door slam,
you know.
excuse me. When you heard the door slam, did you see anybody go outside?
No.
Did you see anybody drive away?
No.
Did anybody come upstairs by you and Stephen on February 23rd of 2022?
No.
Did Ava get up at all and go downstairs or come upstairs by you on February 23rd of 2022?
Ava's room is on the main level of the house.
Yep.
She was woken up after the police were already at the house. She never went into the basement.
Okay. When the police officers arrived at your house on February 23rd, you didn't go back downstairs, correct?
I did not.
The officers had you stay by the kitchen table, correct?
Correct.
And then at some point, is it fair to say that the officers had you, Stephen, and Ava all go down to the police department to give a statement or at least talk about things?
That is correct.
In your neighborhood, ma'am, the houses are kind of close together. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. Do people park on the street sometimes?
Occasionally.
Overnight sometimes?
They do. Probably not in the winter.
Okay.
With snowplows.
Is your street, is it busy with people coming and going?
No, it is not. You probably don't drive down my street unless you live on it.
On February 22nd of 2022, when you and Stephen had a little bit of an argument, that was that Tuesday?
In the morning.
Okay. He left and went to a bar?
He did.
Was he drinking all day?
I wasn't with him. But he was at a bar, so.
When
Nice.
he came back,
Good answer.
had he told you that he had some drinks?
He did.
Good answer.
You know
I
what
don't
time
know.
he
I
got
wasn't
back?
there, you idiot.
I do not. It was still light out. In February, that's got to be 5 o'clock or something.
What time did you go to bed on February 22nd, that Tuesday? Do you remember?
I do not.
What time do you typically go to bed?
11.
Okay.
Or we are watching TV in our room. So I don't know if we're actually sleeping. I don't know.
Okay. And you have one cat?
One cat.
And the cat usually, does it stay downstairs or does it?
Did the cat do the
The cat
decapitation?
goes through the entire house. But
Free-
the litter boxes are in the basement.
Okay, it's got free reign of the house, huh?
Yeah. Did the cat do the decapitation? The cat did it. Put it in the bucket.
Did you hear any talking on either Tuesday, February 22nd or Wednesday, February 23rd, prior to that storm door, slamming?
I did not.
If you were upstairs in your bedroom, would it be fair to say that it would be difficult to hear anything going on downstairs or hear a conversation downstairs?
I would not be able to hear anything in the basement, no.
Okay. All right. Nothing further. Thank you.
Any
Wow.
redirect, Mr. Saunders?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you, man. You can step down.
Okay, that was brilliant. Thanks for all that. Guy Queen has been a member for 7 months. Allie B. from Tennessee becomes an
Your Honor, the next
uncivilian.
witness
Thank
is
you.
also a statutory crime victim, and I would just ask that she not be filmed. Also a juvenile, Your Honor.
Okay, so for the next witness, only audio, all right?
Okay, so apparently we can
Stay
do
with
audio.
Ava
So they
Wheelock.
didn't understand the order. Fine. Aussie J, thanks Kurt and chat for much needed opening statement. Giggles after a tough day. You are welcome, sir. Ali B, 10 gift memberships. Thank you. Marcel, $5. Sherry, member for 3 months. Thank you. The Lauren becomes a new member, 99 cents by hitting that beautiful, beautiful join button. Thank you, Lauren. Alan Parker gifted 20 gift memberships, and Crazy by Proxy gifted 5 gift memberships. Thank you, everyone who helps to support the channel. Lee Ann celebrates 22 months of membership. Thank you very, very much. For everyone who hits that beautiful, beautiful join button for a mere 99 cents a month. That is right. Less than $1 a month. You can become an uncivilian and help support the channel like E.E. Caroline has done for the last 18 months. That's $18 E.E. Caroline has spent in 18 months to help support the channel.
She'll place you under oath.
And you too can support it.
And nothing but the truth in the matter now before the court, so help you God.
I need fish food. You can support fish food.
And then state your name for the record.
I'm Ava
What's your last name, Ava?
Wheelock,
Can you spell your last name for the record, please?
Wheelock.
And can you scoot up a little bit to the microphone if you could? And try to speak right into that microphone if you can. Ava, how old are you?
I'm 17.
Are you still in school?
Yes.
And I know it's summertime, but what grade will you be in next year?
Senior.
And who do you live with, Ava?
Both my mom and my dad.
Do you split time between the two of them?
Yes.
And who is your mom?
Tara,
Where does your mom live?
Stony Brook Lane.
And I'm going to ask to have you recall February of 2022. Did you have that same living arrangement in February of 2022?
Yes.
So at that time you were living half time with mom and half time with dad?
Yes.
And do you have any siblings?
Yes, 2.
And are they older or younger?
Both older.
Do you have a brother or sister or both?
Brother, sister, yeah.
And how about your older sister? How old is she?
I believe she's 25.
And how about your older brother?
25.
And who was your brother?
Shad.
That's Shad Thyrion?
Yes.
Did you have a pretty good relationship with Shad?
Very close, yes.
Was he a nice guy?
Yes.
Do you
Did
know
you
where
cut off
Shad
his
was
head?
living in February of 2022?
I believe with his dad.
Would you see Shad occasionally at your mom's house?
Yes.
What were the nature or what were the reasons why he would come visit at your mom's house?
To hang out with me, to do laundry, and to hang out with us.
I'm going to ask you to specifically remember February 22nd of 2022. Do you remember that day?
Yes.
It started out as a day of celebration, right?
Yes.
What was going on that day?
I was at my dad's traditional wedding.
And was that in the general Green Bay area?
I don't know.
Okay. How far away was it from your mom's house?
I don't know.
At some point on that same date, did you return to your mom's house from the wedding?
Yes, at the end of the wedding.
And do you know about what time it was that you returned to your mom's house?
No, but it was dark outside.
And how did you get to your mom's house on the February 22nd?
I drove myself.
And when you arrived at your house, did you see anyone in the residence?
No.
What did you do when you got home?
I immediately went to bed.
And which door did you use to enter that residence?
The side door.
Is that the door off of the driveway?
Yes.
Is that the door that everyone used?
Yes.
And you said you went to your bedroom. If you were to enter that residence through the side door, how would you get to your bedroom?
I entered the house, and down to the basement is right in front of me, and to the left is a kitchen. So I went to the kitchen, and there's a hallway. When you go more into the kitchen, I went down the hallway to my room.
And that's on the first floor of the residence, your room?
Yes.
And then there's a basement, and is there also a second floor?
Yes, there's a second floor.
What's on the second floor?
My mom's room.
What's in the basement generally?
Where we do laundry, and sometimes people stay there.
Is that where Shad stays when he comes over usually?
Yes.
On that night, you said you went right to your room. Did you go to the basement at all on February 22nd?
No.
And you said you didn't see anyone in the residence when you came home, is that right?
Yes.
At some point, did you hear other people in the residence?
Yes.
What did you hear?
I just heard footsteps downstairs.
When you say downstairs, are you talking about the stairs from the second floor to the first floor, or the stairs from the basement up to the first floor?
The basement up to the first floor.
Is that something that you heard frequently throughout that day?
Yes.
How about people's voices? Did you hear any people's voices on the night of the 22nd to the 23rd?
I heard a female voice.
Did you know who it was?
No.
Did you ever see a female in the residence on that date, the 22nd or the 23rd?
No.
Do you recall specifically anything that the female voice had said?
No.
Did you hear two voices or one voice or more than two voices?
Just one voice.
Did you know anything about who the female was talking to or if she was talking to anyone?
No.
Thank you, JC Adult, for that intelligent comment. Really appreciate you bringing us
At some
to that
point,
wonderful
did you
place.
fall asleep on the
You
night
win
of
an
the
award,
22nd
sir.
into the 23rd?
Yes.
And how were you awakened on that day?
I was awakened to bang on my door from the police.
What happened when the police banged on your door?
I woke up and they told me to come to the kitchen.
And did you do that?
Yes.
And who was in the kitchen when you got there?
My mom and Steve.
And did Steve live with your mom at that time?
Yes.
And you had not seen either of them prior to that time frame, is that right?
Yes.
And did the police want to speak with you at that time?
No.
Did you ultimately go to the Green Bay Police Department and speak with police about what you observed that night?
Yes.
Did that occur that morning, the 23rd?
Yes.
And you told them what you could remember?
Yes.
Thank you. No further questions, Ava.
Mr. Fairley, cross-examination.
Ava, how are you?
All right.
Do you know Taylor Schabusiness?
Yes, when I was a kid.
How do you know her?
Stay on cross-examination.
My brother's best friend.
Okay. Where did your brother go to high school?
I don't remember.
Okay. But you're going to be a senior this fall?
Sorry?
You're going to be a senior this fall?
Yes.
Where do you go to high school?
Objection, relevance.
I'll withdraw.
Sustained.
I can withdraw.
Yeah, that's totally irrelevant.
So you
Who do
have
go to
a
high
car,
school?
correct?
What are you talking about?
Yes.
You have a RAV4?
Toyota.
And
Shout out to Toyota.
your mom has a car, right?
Yes.
It's a VW Jetta?
Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure.
Okay. You've ridden in it?
Huh?
Have you taken a ride in your mom's car in the past?
Yeah.
Okay. And then Steve Hendricks, that's your mom's boyfriend, correct?
Yes.
He's got a car, right?
Yes.
So when you're at the house, when you're at your mom's house, do you all park your cars in the driveway?
Yes.
Okay. When you went to your dad's wedding, that was on February 22nd, is that right?
Yes.
I think it was a Tuesday, right?
I believe so.
And at some point, the wedding was over and you went to your mom's to spend the night, correct?
Yes.
And did you pull into the driveway at your mom's house on Stony Brook?
I don't remember.
Okay. Typically, when you go to your mom's house, do you park your car in the driveway?
Yes.
Okay. Did you see any other vehicles besides your car, your mom's car, and Steve's car?
Yes.
What else? What other cars did you see?
A van
Where was it?
in the driveway.
When did you see it?
Sorry?
When did you see the van?
When I came back from Dad's wedding.
Okay. So did you pull behind the van then?
No.
Okay. Where did you park your car?
The side of the road.
Okay.
I wonder. I don't know if the chat's wondering this too, but I wonder where he's
You
going.
went
with
in the
this
house then
question.
after the wedding, correct?
Yes.
And what did you do?
I went to my room.
You went straight to your room?
Yes.
Did you talk to your mother at all?
No.
Did she know that you were home?
I don't know.
How about Steve Hendricks? Did you talk to him?
No.
Okay. And you went in your bedroom. Did you leave the door open or did you close the door?
I closed the door.
Okay. And then did you go to sleep?
Yes.
What time did you go to sleep?
I don't know.
Okay. Do you remember what time you got to your mom's house that day?
No.
Okay. But it was in the evening?
Yes.
After dinner time?
I don't know.
When you came in the house, did you ever see Taylor Schabusiness in the house on Tuesday, February 22nd of 2022?
Spectre.
Did you see your brother
relevant
Shad Thyrion in the house on that date?
is he's trying to explain to the jury that
Did you ever hear his voice?
whether she could hear and see
How
things
about Taylor's voice?
that
Did you
she's
hear her voice?
testifying to.
Mumbles.
You
So
didn't know
that's
who it
why
was,
he's
though,
saying that if you're behind the door, if you're in a room, how could you hear everything? How
Did you
can
go in the
see
basement on February 22nd, that Tuesday?
No.
Did you go in the basement after you woke up when the police came to your house on Wednesday, February 23rd of 2022?
No.
So he's trying to show that her testimony
When
for
the
anything that
police
happened in the
came to your
basement was
house,
irrelevant.
is it your testimony that they knocked on your bedroom door?
Yes.
And you woke up then?
Yes.
And then you went to the kitchen?
Yes.
And did they have you sit by the kitchen table?
Yes.
And then you waited for further directions, correct?
Yes.
And then is it true that at some point then you, your mom, and Steve were all taken down to the police department to talk?
Yes.
Let me put how old is this girl? She is as a high schooler, senior in high school.
She's 17 now.
Yeah, but what this guy's trying to
Thyrion,
establish
would he
is
have people come over
what she can
oftentimes
hear,
to
what she
play
couldn't
video
hear,
games or
her place
hang
in the
out in
house.
the basement?
And now
relevance.
he's going to overrule that, I think.
Well, it goes to
Motive and opportunity.
people
other people
coming in the house.
Exactly.
People that he would invite
Sustain
over.
the objection. Ask another question.
Ooh, he's going to sustain objection. But he's trying to say there's other people in the house. It may
How
not
often would your
be
brother come
this
to the house?
person.
Yeah.
I think I'd overrule that objection.
Was it just kind of sporadic, like kind of whenever?
Yeah.
Okay.
My thigh
Wasn't any
muscle's
kind of
really
set schedule,
hurting
is that
today.
fair?
Sorry?
There was no
Not
set
sure
schedule,
why.
is that true?
So I was
Yeah.
trying to deal with that problem.
And
Yeah, you're not missing anything important.
were you at the house on Monday, February 21st of 2022?
I don't know.
So this witness is testifying to which, because she was there, which she heard that type of thing.
Did you,
And now the defense attorney is trying to break it down, like, yo, how could you hear something? You're behind a room,
Get
you're
up on
sleeping,
February
you didn't go into the
22nd
basement, you don't know what the hell was going on.
to look out the
that
window
type
at
of
all?
thing. Did you even look out
When
the
you went
window
to
to see
bed,
what's going on?
you were out? Is that fair to say that you were sleeping until the police knocked on your door?
Yes.
You didn't wake up to go get something to eat or anything like that?
No.
And the house at 829 Stony Brook Lane, there's a basement down there, correct?
Yes.
It's kind of like a finished basement, right?
Yes.
And then there's the floor level with a kitchen, living room, and your bedroom, right?
Yes.
Bathroom, correct?
Yes.
And then the upstairs, kind of like the loft area, that's where your mom and Mr. Hendricks, that's their bedroom?
Yes.
And when you were there on February 22nd, you couldn't hear any conversations or anything like that, correct?
Yes.
That's true, right?
Yes.
Okay, nothing further. Thank you.
Redirect.
I have no redirect. I just want to confirm that the state had not subpoenaed this witness. I want to make sure that she's released from the defense subpoena.
Yes, she can be released.
Right. Very good. You can step down.
So
essentially-
the state didn't subpoena her, but the state called her. Okay.
Because she was at the
I
property.
think we could call another witness. However, this is a good natural break in the state's case at this point in time. I wonder if the court would entertain allowing us to break for the noon hour at this time.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's about 10 minutes to 12. We're going to break for lunch, and I'm going to ask that you be back in the jury room ready to go at 1 o'clock. All right? All rise for the jury.
Yeah.
So even though the defense subpoenaed this witness, the state called because she was at the location where the crimes allegedly happened. So you don't want to have it's essentially a ghost witness out there. It was like, oh, somebody was in the house at the time this all happened, and she said she didn't hear anything. So you call her up and you kind of have to explain that. But that's why I think this guy was saying, well, you were asleep the whole time, because now, she's essentially an irrelevant witness, but they wanted to make sure that they got that in there,
Yeah, I guess. I mean, that's fine. Why not? Bring her in to testify to what little she has to offer. She doesn't have much to offer, but she's in the house. So,
well, hold on.
Fair enough. Complete your set.
But let's think of it if you're a prosecutor at this time, right?
I get it.
You got this murderer, you got somebody upstairs. You don't call them, and then it allows the defense to go and say, hey, there was somebody else. You didn't hear from the other people in the house. This large murder happening, but you got a 17-year-old upstairs.
But she did see the van in the driveway, so that's helpful.
What you get. Yeah, you get the
and also we found the body parts in the van later, so she has something to tie the defendant to the scene, and she heard a woman's voice. So I mean, hey, that's somewhat probative. It's not.
Oh yeah.
So all that good stuff. So yeah. So I mean, the state is doing fine in sort of the presentation of things. It's a very nice way to start with a 911 call, that gets everything rolling. Then start with the officers who respond to the scene. Then you talk to the people who found the body. You talk to the man, the woman, and the child. And, you're just kind of going through it so probably the next thing in sequence, I would imagine, if I'm guessing, is, the police who found the body parts in her van, that would be the next logical place to go, probably. And then after that, when you're and any sort of searches of any sort, so you go through the officers that found the body parts in her car. If she made any statements, you bring those officers on. Any evidence you found in her home, so the officers who found anything in her home, stuff like that. Then the next logical place to go after that is probably a medical examiner to testify about whatever they can determine from cause of death or other evidence, especially as it would relate to the charges, as it relates to, the use of a dildo or other elements to pleasure oneself, or any sort of evidence that would indicate the body was used for a prurient purpose after death would be helpful to bring in at that point. Then you bring in sort of any DNA experts or evidence experts that talk about the dildo they found and the evidence that ties it to the body or whatever, and that's sort of your case in chief. I would imagine that's where you're sort of going.
Yeah, I think for the prosecutor, it's not about the story itself, because there's really not a lot. Obviously you got to prove your case, but there's really not a lot of things you got to things on the margin here, right? She's kind of caught with the blood, so it's kind of just getting the story out in the proper timeline.
You found the body parts in her van.
Yeah, so
it's like that's pretty damn good evidence. Everything else is bonus.
But I think you have this. There's also the fear of just throwing it, because if you just throw out random facts to people, sometimes they don't are able to put them together in a logical way. That's why generally they tell you to lay things out in a nice timeline so people can follow you in that space. But we'll see, because I think you end with the most goriest stuff, because that'll be the most shocking. And again, emotion is a thing that really convinces juries. We saw that in Potter, right? The law actually at one point didn't matter. It's just really if you can get them emotionally tied to a particular result, then you're in a good shape. But I think here the prosecution has the facts, and the defense is just really just trying to drag things along. There's really nothing substantive that they've it's not like they're not pointing to somebody else doing it, even though he's trying to allude to it here. But yeah.
And then I guess they'll try to bring up stuff about her mental state in the second half of this trial, which apparently is how we do it in this state, I guess. And she's going to jail forever. So let's just, that's the end of this page.
Yeah,
everything is just the end. How do we get to the end of the story?
A lot of people don't understand. Like they'll say, like even let's say if she's going for an insanity defense, which I'm assuming she's going to, and the jury has to find it as a matter of fact, not law. Think about this. In New York, for instance, in most states it's like this too, but in New York particularly, every murderer who's been found not guilty by reason of insanity has never been released from the mental health institution. Never. They've all not guilty by reason of insanity sends you to the mental ward for life. That's a life sentence. No one has ever gotten out and be like, oh, this guy's sane now. That's it. You're done. So even if she's found not guilty because she's crazy, she's probably still going to do a life sentence, because no doctor and no judge wants to be the person to let this person out if something like that happens again.
Yeah.
So in most states, because people think that you can get out and that you're free and that, you beat the system. No, you're in jail for life. And matter of fact, it's worse than if she would have got convicted for the murder, because eventually 20 years she'll get a possibility of parole. Here, there's no possibility.
Yeah, and I've definitely read articles like that where there was less than that on the table. So like if the guy had gotten convicted, he would have gotten 10 years, and he's been in the mental institution 20.
Yeah.
You read articles like that where it's like, yeah, if you had just been guilty, you would have been let free long ago, but no one wants to let you free.
Somebody puts it's nicer. It's maybe it's the nicer part of prison. No, you got to understand prison for the mentally insane, because these people aren't going to like a hospital they're going to Bellevue has a ward for the criminally insane, and that's what you are. If you're not guilty by reason of insanity, you're what's known as criminally insane. So you can't be held responsible, but you're still insane. And that ward is again, it's really, really, you're talking about regular prisons bad. That's even worse. So, and don't forget forced medications. They tie you down. You're in a padded room. You're not seeing people every day. It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. So
yeah, it's not a good place to be. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend. Plus, it's only successful about 0.5% of the time. So it's a bad deal every way around.
It's like you win, but you lose. Like, congratulations, I'm insane, but I'll never see you guys again.
Yeah, well, yeah. So she's going away forever, one way or another. So
yeah,
it's the end of Schabusiness.
Schabusiness. It's funny. I'm looking at some stories to cover for this week, and this one makes me. Researchers condemn the rise of fascist ideologies after students sent mocking responses to the LGBTQ survey. So they were like, "What do you identify as?" Some of the students said jet airplanes and Apache helicopters.
Yeah,
that's hilarious. It's funny. So they say that the students in this school are Oregon State University, which is very liberal. They said the students are practicing white supremacy and racism. I would be like, that's actually funny.
How do you know they don't? How do you know they don't identify as that? This is the whole thing. Like, how do you know, right? So, yeah.
How do you know? No, but you know what though? I think I don't know. This like for these social issues, it's like a part of me that sympathizes at one point, but then there's a part of me that's like, this is starting to get like a little ridiculous. Like, yeah, no, I'm not even gonna say it's really ridiculous. And the sad part is that, like, I understand equality, right? Let them marry, let them do all that. All makes sense to me. If you like if you want to dress up as the opposite gender and call yourself whatever, I'm with that, right? I'm a freedom guy. When I say I'm conservative in some areas, I am a freedom guy. If you want to live your life like that, you should be free to do so. Just like I don't believe in all these religions out there. There's a lot of religions out there that I just don't think have any sense. But if you want to go practice that, that's your business, right? You're an adult. You can do that, right? But my acceptance even for the LGBTQ community is the same thing. I don't believe that's for me, but you can do whatever you want. My only issue is you trying to force me to accept it or to be an advocate for it.
Yeah.
Like I'm not advocating for Islam because I don't believe in that, right? So, you can practice it, but don't force me to practice it. You know what I'm saying? Why should I not eat pork, right? That's your thing. That's not my thing. That's what and I think that's where it's getting the rubber is meeting the road here. They kind of they want to force me to adhere to their ideology, even if I don't want to do that, right? I should have the freedom. Like they were talking about how misgendering now, they want it to be a crime. I'm like, that's giving away my freedom of speech. I have the right to offend people. Freedom of speech is not for speech that we like. Freedom of speech is to protect speech we don't like. Specifically, the court has made it very clear. If we like that speech, that's not what free speech is. Free speech is protecting the speech you don't like, and you have the constitutional right to offend people. Calling someone the N-word, calling somebody any racial slur. You have that right. Now, maybe socially you'll be punished, but the state can't punish you for something like that, and the state can't punish you for misgendering someone. I think people don't understand, and that's what they say, right? The freedom of speech will go down to a round of applause, right? The freedom of speech will go down with the round of applause because people will be happy. Don't let them say this. Don't let them say this. But it's like, no, I'm not going to let you take away my right, even though I'm not going to misgender people. I try not to. But why should you take away my rights? Why do I have to lose my right to free speech for you to just feel good? That's not how this works.
Yeah. Well, I need to take a break for lunch. So we either should kill the stream and start a new stream, or we let stream baits go on for an hour and come back. So what do you think? Which do you like?
No, I'm out because I got like 6 or 7 videos I want to film. I got ads I gotta film. So yeah, so I'm probably, I'll see you when you get back. Is this a good time to break too? It's noon, so it's 1 o'clock East Coast. So
yeah.
All
right.
I'll be back with you. Just holler back next time. I'll be on camera. Got to get my camera.
All right, fair enough. All right, well then we will see you back in an hour, Nate. How about that?
All right, see you guys back in an hour, maybe.
All right, maybe he says.
Now you'll see me back. I'll be back.
All right.
Later, guys.
All right, later. Bye. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and schedule this afternoon stream, and then I'll go ahead and do that as soon as the thing wants to allow me to schedule. As soon as the browser kicks up and lets me do it so that I can set up the stream for this afternoon. So we'll talk for a while we're just waiting for that to happen. Then I'm going to have some chili, which I'm pretty excited about. I'm looking forward to that. All right, hold on. It's always something over here. I swear. I swear by the moon and the stars in the sky. And I swear. Okay, good. Got that scheduled. Great. Okay. Now just go over to live stream and create the redirect for this afternoon. Redirect to this afternoon stream. Redirect. Yep. Great. Save. Okay, guys, I will see you in about an hour. Love you all. Till then. Bye-bye.